It's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I changed the setup around tonight. It looks like it's working okay on my end. Hopefully it is. We'll find out. If not, I can fix it, but hopefully it's working. Joining me, as always, is my own shadow twin. It's Tom. What's up?
Hello, friends.
Also joining us this week, I'm so glad to have him back on the show, Mr. AOS coach Anthony. What's up, brother?
G'day, g'day, g'day. I am pumped to be back twice in 1 year. Holy shite.
Anthony, I'd have you on every week, but I think your schedule might not allow that. But you can anytime you want to replace Tom, you're more than welcome. It's fine.
Look, I've just replaced my version of Tom with Clint, but I don't know if I'm going to be absorbed into your conglomerate just yet. But it's good to be back, at least by not by default by you having to record in my house. So, but that was truly an honor. I haven't cleaned my house since you recording in my studio.
You may want to get to that at some point. Your wife might become a bit challenged.
It's like that Simpsons episode where Bart gets the spit on his hand from a girl he really liked, and he just protects it. He doesn't want to wash their hands. That's basically my house.
Gotcha. No, that's totally fair, and I understand. Coach, truly the only thing I'm sad about is that I'm not coming back there in like 2 months to hang out with you again. So there we go. All right, and tonight we are going to be talking Morathi, of course. But first up, we're going to do some news, because there's a lot of it. It's a busy news week. Tuck in, folks. This is going to be a long show. I hope everybody's ready to go. Here we go. All right, Tom, let's begin with the news.
Vampirates.
Well, yes, the rumor engine is up. It's up on the screen there.
Yep.
So what is your guess?
I don't know, man.
It's a very worn-looking thing. That's what I'll say. Like, that's a real messed up thing. One of it's got a little bent, twisted nail through it, right? Obviously, we've got our little twin tines. I legitimately have no idea what this is. I don't know. I can't. I'm not even sure I could formulate a potential guess. I'm curious what the audience thinks it is, other than vampirates, because as we all know, it's of course vampirates. But if it weren't to be vampirates, then the question is, what is it? Anthony, have you got any guesses as to what this strange twin-tined weapon is?
Are we talking about the rumor mill, or are we talking about the 3 day to go count? Sorry, my internet played up a little bit just when we started talking about it.
You're okay. The rumor engine in this case, the little double tine thing.
Yeah, it was. I think vampirates clearly is what the internet wants, so it must be vampirates. But
of course.
Whether it is the new dark elf equivalent of Malekith, I always get confused between Malarian and Malekith. It was Malekith, it's now Malarian.
That's right.
Yeah, I always get confused between the two. That to me is probably the thing. But who knows? Could be Underworld, could be 40k. Who knows? But either way, let's just lock it in, Eddie, and say it is vampirates for 100.
There you go. You know what's funny? So I was looking at Warboss Kurgan's site today, which if people aren't aware of, Warboss Kurgan keeps an excellent record of all of the rumor engine pictures, and then he puts the real image of the mini next to it once we know what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And it's this huge, beautiful running blog. The Warboss does a fantastic job. And in light of this, I was actually thinking today, what haven't we solved? What's still out there? There are things from April and March of this year that have not yet been revealed, that we don't know what minis they belong to. They are so far behind. Like, it's evident and obvious that we are so far behind on releases. It is crazy how many unsolved rumor engines there are. And, a couple people have mentioned it looks like a Skaven pokey stick, because it is very roughshod, and it has the little tines like a little Skaven pokey stick. And let me tell you what, I'm here for it. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's not vampirates. It is in fact Skaven. This is just the proof that my prediction in the Future of Broken Realms episode was absolutely correct, and we are getting the reformatted Skaven release for AOS 3.0. All hail our new rat overlords. The Verminous Horde rises again with beautiful new sculpts. I can't wait. So let it be written. So let it be done.
that could be our next story arc. We had the Nighthawk coming out of the Storm Vaults, and we had them versus Stormcast. It is now rats taking over and infesting the entire Mortal Realms, bringing everyone back together. I'm lock it in again. 100 points, lock it in.
There you go. That's it. We've got it. All right. So cool. What else we got?
Yeah. So I mean, a new White Dwarf is coming.
Yeah, that's generally true. Yes.
And the teaser for this trailer showed up in my basement this weekend. Spiders are coming.
Yes. Tom is pointing to the fact that he has an infestation right now of tiny little baby spiders in his house. It's gross. But, yes.
So if you see one on my face, that's what's going on.
Sure. If it just one, falls in the shot, yeah. If that sort of nightmare fuel happens, yeah. You should be...
20. There's 20 of them up near my light. When I picked up my headphones today, there was a web with 6 baby spiders on my headphones.
This is nightmare fuel, Tom. Please stop. So, at any rate, yes, in celebration of that, next month we are getting the Spider Fang. Clearly, they're getting the treatment, just as the Squigs did before, the Squigs and the Troggoths, I should say, before them. Boy, we're really plowing some extra work into that Gits book, huh? I'll tell you what.
Well, you know what that means, don't you? That book is not getting updated for at least another year.
Sure.
It also probably means that Gits will probably only have a really minor role in Broken Realms. Maybe Scragrot and the actual goblins, but it probably means that we're not going to get much love. So if you're a Gits player, lower those expectations. Broken Realms, Scragrot is probably not coming.
I mean, here's the reality. All of that would be in Broken Realms if it was coming in Broken Realms.
Right, sure.
It is the exact type of thing that would show up in Broken Realms.
And White Dwarf has a lesser lead time than the books do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right. So, yay.
That's fine. I'm excited for it. It's the reality is the 2 that they've already done are pretty fantastic. The Squig one was amazing. The Troll one, I like the amount of stuff they packed into the Troggoth one to actually make that a competitive force is shocking. Like, here's magic resistance and offense and defense and everything you need and battalions. It was just like, take all the stuff. Here's everything.
I don't disagree with that. Sure. My biggest fear is that, I don't know if these War Scrolls can be redeemed.
You're saying the Spider Fang War Scrolls.
Right. I mean, the Arachnaroks are great. Man, drop those another 50 points and throw Battle Line on them. You have a force.
You're talking on the basic Arachnarok, like the Skitter Strand?
Yes. But you're not taking... Here's the problem, though. But you're not taking objectives. Or holding objectives, rather. Because at the end of the day, the problem with Spider Fang is that, their main troop, which is a bunch of cav, on 5 pluses.
Yeah, sure.
That hit on 5s. So it's just there's a War Scroll problem here. And so I'm I love the army. I would love to bust out my Skitter Strand or my spiders, my Spider Fang, but I just there's fundamental problems that need War Scroll rewrites.
We'll see. Again, who knows what they could do in the article, but it's exciting that at least we're taking a swing at it. That's better than not.
Hey, I've waited 5 years, and they're finally doing something with the spiders.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't hate that. I'm glad that they've actually taken initiative.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'll say. I mean, I don't know anyone that has as large of collection as me outside of Paul.
Right, of course. Paul being the preeminent Spider Fang collector in the world.
Right.
Yes.
And so, I have a lot of Spider Fang. I literally have 80 spiders.
Plus the ones in your roof.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Get them down here and you can have an extra unit.
Not talking about the 30 or so around my lamp, but 80 or so of the Spider Riders. At least. I think I broke 100. I'll have to double check. But, so I'm ready. Don't get me wrong. I don't know.
We'll see. Time will tell. All right, What else we got? Oh, Anthony, hold on before I leave that. Anthony, I know you're a Gitz fan in general. Any thoughts from you on the Spider Fang?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty cool list discussions already with the Squigs and the Trogs so far. And I know in, various WhatsApp and Discords, we've all speculated over the last couple of days since the news broke, like, what would that look like? It wouldn't feel right if Spider-Fang didn't get a little boost, considering we've kind of given love to everyone else. And I think people are excited to see what is coming. Whether it's going to be like back in Age of Sigmar 1, before we got the Gloomspite Gits, we did have some competitive builds for spiders, and it really kind of focused on that mortal wound output, getting it down to like 4s or 5s. So, will there be some deep striking from terrain? Will we see some alternative kits where people are potentially mishmashing maybe? We did see a narrative version. I think Ben Johnson had written some stuff in a White Dwarf that, while isn't legal, we did see some kit bashing with the Gobblepalooza in conjunction with Squigs. So I don't know. My mind is open. I'm hoping that there's something that's exciting, but I do feel what Tom said is that from a competitive match play, objective scoring, I think they're going to be a lot harder to handle than. But hey, look what they've done with Squigs. I'm excited to see the potential.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah, I mean, there's options there. You can write, like, when you're talking about the difference between what you can do in a sub-faction and even a few battalions, it's shocking what you can actually get in there. So, yeah, who knows?
I mean, I'm open to it. I'm prepped. Like, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So if they drop something hot, I'm in. But I don't know.
We'll see. All right.
I think people who play spiders are going to bring them back, or they're going to be already playing them. I don't know if these rules are going to get people to run out and go buy a spider army.
Sure.
I think we saw that with Squigs, but with probably spiders, probably not.
Right.
I mean, but again, we could be completely wrong. Like, they could make it so that a bunch of the non-mounted spiders gain battle line status, meaning that there's no limit on them. Like, if it replaced Behemoth, like, you could easily see a world where people are running those Azyr battle line units.
The War Party spider could count all the goblins on top of it, so it could be like 10 dudes. Right?
So
because there's like 8 goblins on top of it, right? Yeah.
There are exactly 8.
Yeah.
There are 8 dudes. If the shaman could count as like, so it would be 9. It would count as 9 models for the War Party or Ragnarok, but if it's a shaman, it counts as 10.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, there could be fun, crazy things you could do with it, right? Yeah.
Which would be hilarious. It'd feel like you're stealing other people's, like, design space, but you know what? For those spiders, I will take it.
There's more of a justification for the big spider with actually 10 guys to count as 10 guys than there is for one single giant, like Little Man Crusher, to count as 10 guys.
I mean, you make a great point.
Yeah, there's 10 dudes there. You'd be like, this thing counts as 10 guys because there's 10 guys here. Look, here's the 10. I'll point them out. And I'd be like, yeah, that checks out. The math works there. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
It's a great point.
All I want to say is I want to see some spiders explode into more spiders. Nothing is more scarier than a big spider turning into a lot of small spiders from eggs and stuff. So let me put a whole bunch of spiders on the table that were free. So,
well, what I'll say is this: if you've ever painted the Arachnarok model, you know that there are baby spiders crawling out of the torso of the big spider. So, like, it is already modeled on the Arachnarok.
There you go.
Make it happen. Just make it happen, G-Dubs.
All right.
I mean, it's already to print and shipped, so whatever is done.
FAQ errata it. Just add an FAQ errata. Oops, we forgot.
There you go.
Okay.
What's our next item?
No, I'm going to keep talking about spiders.
Yeah.
So the Sons of Bahamut FAQ. How about you talk about that, Vince?
Yeah, Sons of Bahamut FAQ dropped today. It was great. Everything that the Sons wanted was there. So yes, your guy actually counts as a wizard, and yes, you can walk over top of endless spells. It does point out that there, like, endless spells and judgments of Khorne and prayers of whatever and blah blah blah. They have to, like, list all the prayer type things out, all the endless prayers, because they all have their own names. And so, like, here's what that implies. Here's the stupid world we live in now, since they didn't think of a name for all these endless prayers. Army X comes out, okay, which whatever it is, imagine some future Army X, and they get endless prayers. They get their own form of prayer. For the first month until the FAQ update, the Giants can technically not walk over those. Okay?
Right.
Because they're not in the list of things that Longshanks applies to. Right? Now, obviously, anybody with common sense in their head is going to go, well, of course, we're just waiting on the FAQ update. Of course, you can walk over the top of that. Duh. Right? Nobody's actually going to be that much of a jerk. Right? But my point is that, like, wouldn't it have been easier if we had just called them all, like, endless prayers or something, and then could have just said they can walk over endless spells and prayers, and then that would have been future-proofed? Just a thought.
So, do you know what the best part about it is? And it dawned on me, like, just as you said that.
I'm ready.
They can't step over the Idoneth boat.
No, it's more than 4 inches tall.
Either side of it.
Correct. It doesn't matter. If at any point on the terrain is more than 4 inches tall, you cannot Longshanks over it. Look.
It has nothing to do with that. It's not terrain. It's an etheric vortex.
It's their terrain is in their keyword. The boat has terrain in the keyword. It doesn't matter. The boat is taller than 4 inches. That? Yes, I'm 1,000% sure of it. It does not matter, Tom. The boat is more than 4 inches tall. All current on offer terrain from GW, with the exception of the basic Azerite ruins, the one that isn't level stacked, is more than 4 inches tall.
So it just doesn't work.
So Longshanks applies to basically 0% of the current kits sold by GW. Okay? There you go. Now, at any rate, neither here nor there. The point is...
I was making a point about the etheric vortex. But
no, I mean, it's still terrain.
Makes me even more sad.
Sure. It doesn't matter. They ruled it you can walk over on the spells, which is really good. It means you can't, like, get people... You can't trap a giant in shackles or something dumb like that, as we all knew that was going to be the case. So, all great. Like, all the rulings, basically, you can kick objectives out of your zone and change their points value. That came down on the side of the Giants, which I was surprised about. So, like, something like Battle for the Pass... You can just boot that objective right on out of your zone turn 1, and the enemy does not have a 4-point objective. Take that. Crazy good.
That one really surprised me.
Yeah.
That one really surprised me. I thought we wouldn't keep that. I thought it was a nice little trick we would have for a month or so, but that we would end up getting an FAQ saying that the original points value for the marker wouldn't change if it was moved. But to our surprise, we get to move it around. So I think the stocks of Kraken Eaters, whether it's the mercenary or within Suns, is just exponentially increased.
I completely agreed. His kick ability just got so powerful now that got solidified into the rules. There's a lot of scenarios, by the way, that function like that, where the scoring is based on its current location, and kicking it around even a small number of inches dramatically changes the nature of the game. I would point out that something like Knife to the Heart is now that is a giant almost auto win scenario, as they just kick their objective either backwards and sit one guy on it while the rest of their army literally charges forward, or they just kick it forward with them and they just march in a Taker tribe. You march 105 wounds straight up to their objective and just toe in, unless they can completely keep you off where you can't pile in or anything by the bottom of 2, because otherwise it'll tick over to 3 and you'll just win. Because you'll have 105 models on theirs, and there's their whole army could be sitting there and not outnumber you. And you're doing that with a couple bases. Right? So, at any rate, yeah, good stuff. Now, unfortunately, we also got the most insane potential ruling in this FAQ in a long time. In a long time. So, I don't even know where to begin to explain this, but I feel it's my duty to all of you out there to explain this nonsense. So, here we go. Tuck in, folks, and try to stay with me. Okay. In the rules for Mightier Makes Rightier, the evolution of the Ogre rules, that makes your little giants count as 10 and your big giants count as 20, there is a designer note. We all saw it, And there was a lot of argument amongst the giant community as to what exactly it meant. And paraphrasing, the designer's note said something to the effect of, in a scenario that uses alternative capturing rules, you can choose to use these rather than the capturing rules. And so there was kind of discussions about what that meant. And how we all interpreted it to mean was not how it came down. I'm not even going to talk about what we thought it meant, because here's how it came down. What it came down as is that the Sons of Behemoth player can, in scenarios with alternative objective taking rules. So this would be Places of Arcane Power, where you have to be a hero and move on to it. Where this is Better Part of Valor, where you have to be Battle Line. Or Take and Hold, I think is one out of the core book that's like this. Okay. All of these have some rule like a specific unit type has to walk onto it and stand there. And that's how you take it, right?
Like a hero or a battle line or whatever.
Or whatever. So now what you can do is the giant player can just say, no, I am the captain now. Look at me. Look at me. I am the captain. Okay? And you can just tow up to the objective and go, we're not using your rules anymore. Whatever it says in the scenario, that's not true. I know you've got a hero standing there, and I know you thought you took the objective. You didn't. I'm switching the rules. The rules are now no longer, it's a hero has to stand on this thing. I'm using the standard objective scenario rules. And now I'm 10 guys and you're one hero. I win. Because now I'm using the standard objective rules. Okay? So I just take this from you. And you can march all the heroes on here you want. You can march all day long. I'm still owning this one. Because I'm 10 guys. Right?
Because I've changed the rules.
Because I've changed the rules. Right. Now, this gets a lot worse. Okay? And I don't really want to get lost in like the weird legal minutia of this. But the issue is there's nothing that caveats, like it says for the purposes of determining control of objectives. Okay? But there's not actually a sort of, there's not actually a trigger in the game properly of exactly how that happens. Like we know when control is sort of checked, but certain things seem to have alternative control mechanisms. And so you can invoke this rule anytime you want. Seemingly. You don't have to actually be near it. Like, you don't have to be near the objective, and it doesn't have to be your turn. And so, like, there's some real weird legal rambling you can do here, where this is not going to be easy to explain, okay? But here we go. I'll take a shot at it. By raw, this seems to be correct. You move your hero onto the objective, trying to satisfy the move onto the objective criteria. Right? I say, I'm not anywhere near that objective. But I go, no, I'm switching that objective to Mightier Makes Rightier. That's now a normal objective. I don't have to be near it to do that. I just have to say that's the rules I want to use for that objective. Okay, so now your movement did nothing. Okay? Then when it comes to the end of the round, where we're going to actually check who controls the objective, I'm going to say, nope, I'm switching back. Now we're going to use the hero rule again. Okay?
And since you didn't move onto it during the move phase, or
right, you didn't move onto it during the move phase, so hence,
let me say it this way: you didn't claim it when you moved onto it.
Correct. Hence, you don't control it now, even though you're standing there. Right. So, look, that's the worst interpretation of this ever. It's gamey as all get out. If anyone did this, I would spit in their face across the table. Like, that would be the honest response. Okay? It's just silly.
I'm beginning to like this army the more that you talk.
Right, exactly. Yes, the as Alex said, the trigger is when it's contested, but when it's contested is like, that's not, when is that? Right? So, at any rate,
because there's no status checking.
It's not like there's a point in the game where we go, this is the moment in the game where all determination of objective determination is made, right? It says like at the end of this round, the battle plan checks. Each scenario is checking at certain times as triggered there. There's not a game state we can appeal up to, right? But right. I've switched the rules, and I've said I'm going to use my timing, and then I've switched back because I can keep doing it anytime, right?
And you're saying that your timing, your use of the rules prevents their claiming.
Correct. I can hold them to 0 points on every objective forever, regardless of whether or not you could table me at the top of 1, and I could still say you score 0 points for the rest of this game. Because I'll just keep switching the objectives on you. I don't need to be present with models to do that.
Don't you love the world we're in now?
So, at any rate, look, it's stupid. Okay, it's stupid. I'm not trying to defend any of this. At all. Okay? Here's the correction. Here's the correction. You ready?
Why did you have to ruin our toys, Vince?
Erase this FAQ immediately in the winter FAQ, and then erase the designer's commentary out of the book itself, and let's just be ogres. Okay? Let's just be big ogres, where we're like 10 and 20, that's how we all thought this worked, and it's fine. Like, it's fine. The world worked fine like that.
But now you've ruined it.
It just doesn't need to be like that. Now, again, the way I did it is like this most extreme, insane, legal, stupid interpretation that's dumb and gamey, and I'm not recommending, and it shouldn't be there. But I shouldn't be able to draw that and seemingly still be okay under Raw, right? And if somebody looked at me and went, that's nuts and nonsense, right? I'd be like, yeah, it is. Like, that just shouldn't be in the game. Even trying to explain, like, take the simplest version of this, where I can just switch the objective taking mechanic, right? Let's get rid of all that gamey crap I just discussed. And let's just talk about switching the objective. You walk on with it. I have to start every game of Places of Arcane Power now and explain that you're walking on with heroes means nothing. I'm going to walk up and automatically take the objective from you every time. You will never hold it.
No, that's not true.
They'd have to have 21 people on that objective space. Yes. Unless I'm playing takers, in which case I hope you have 31 people on that objective. Or I happen to move 3 babies up there, in which case in takers I'm counting as 45 models. I will just take every objective from you. I own Places of Arcane Power forever. Like, you don't... I am the captain now. That's it. Look at me. Look at me. Okay? Like,
you're getting me excited about this army, man.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, but the fact that I would have to explain that is just like, how weird and unintuitive is that? Like, no, you. I know it says you. I know you thought we were playing this scenario, but we're not. I'm changing the rules.
But and to answer Alex's statement. No, they don't use their rules. They use the scenario rules unless you change the scenario rules.
Right.
And the key is that the Allegiance ability doesn't change their claiming rules. It changes the scenario itself.
Correct.
And that's the key, is that your rules interact with the scenario that now the other player has to play by.
Right. And look, I get it with this confusion, because this is all over the place. This was hours of discussion as to how the heck this is even supposed to work. And I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not even positive that I have this all correct, because it's nonsense. And I've spent like 6 hours today discussing this, right? This should just be erased. Stop this. You made a mistake. Get rid of it. Okay, Anthony, go.
It's the starting part to it that makes it an issue. It's because when you look at the bottom part of the FAQ, it does say I can choose to control it one way or another, but it's right at the start where it's basically that really needs to be tightened up, I think. Or we're about to see every tournament organizer set up a house rule that it only impacts the Gargant player. The Gargant player can choose how they score the objective. It doesn't impact. I mean, look, as a Gargant player, I don't want to do that, and I won't do that. I don't want that negative play experience. I don't want to win on a gotcha moment. But that's not why I come into this game. So hopefully Gargant players don't use that, and tournament organizers look into that and clear this up while we get another FAQ on an FAQ.
Yeah. What you need is you just need to create a half-page laminated handout.
No, I'm just going to print a picture of the meme from the movie of the guy saying, I am the captain now, and I'm going to hand him that laminated card whenever I change the objective. I'll be like, there you go. And that's it. That's my explanation. At any rate, yes, it's silly. But otherwise, honestly, beautiful FAQ.
Or we could just print out the FAQ, put it in a little envelope that just basically says you cannot win, and then hand it to our opponent on certain scenarios like Places of Arcane Power. Like, you might as well concede. Here's a $5 voucher to go buy yourself a drink.
Right. Your maximum, I'll, like, at the start of the game, I'll explain what I'm going to do and then say, so your maximum score in this game is 0. I'm going to go get a sandwich. Tell me what you do. It's irrelevant. Bye. Just leave.
If I get 1 point, the game ends.
Correct. The game ends because your cap at this is 0.
So basically, tournament organizers, sort this out. Get it cleaned up.
Yeah, I agree with Ghost Mutton, by the way, with just much like terrain placement and meeting engagements, let's pretend it doesn't exist. Which, yes, I agree. I like this idea. Yeah.
Somebody needs to meme a giant, like a mega gargant, with Vince's face over the top of it that says, I am the captain now.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. It was otherwise, I mean, like, I hate that this silly discussion dominated the FAQ because it really was great, right? Like, we did get all of the things we were hoping for. They answered everything the right way. The rest was very clear.
Yeah.
Like, just there's one 3-foot long proud nail sticking out that's going to hook you. But other than that, it really was great.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. So that happened. Other news. So there's a preview show coming this weekend.
Yes. And we know it's got AOS in it, and I'm gonna keep my powder dry for a moment. Anthony, you haven't got to talk much because I had to go on a rant there. What are you excited about in the preview show? What are you hoping to see?
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to say, Vince, but I know that we saw the Games Workshop website recently come up telling people what they can expect at store, and we did see a Slaanesh gold coin in the 3 images. So whether we see... look, one of the things that I noticed in Shadow and Pain that I'm sure other people noticed was that the mortal hero just wasn't as good as the Snake Lady. So does that mean that we've got mortal Slaanesh coming? Does it mean we can hybrid that box and make it a cult of Slaanesh? I don't know. But for me, I'm just, look, I got what I wanted this year, which was Gargant. I'm just hoping other people who get what they want. For me, I'm done for the year. I'm happy. I got Blood Bowl 3 coming. I got Gargant. I could not ask for anything else this year.
Totally fair. Tom?
Do you have any of the images?
I don't have any of the 5, 4, or 3 images. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I am so excited. I sent my wife away this weekend.
Okay. All right.
So after the show ends at 6:45, Vince and I are gonna do a show.
No, it doesn't end at 6:45. It starts at 1:45 and goes till like 3:15 GMT. So it'll be like 8:45 to 9 to 10 o'clock our time.
I don't think so.
I know so.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, yes, we're gonna do a show afterwards.
Obviously,
I sent my wife away.
Okay, very good.
What I think is this. I think that we have a box of Nurgle versus Slaanesh coming. I think it is. I actually am going to go out on a limb here and say I think it's both new model sets, some new model sets.
Wow, so you're not just assuming... Everybody's been assuming the Decay is just Death Guard, because we know Death Guard are coming in December for 40k. You're actually hoping for new AOS Nurgle as well.
I am. So, like, it'll probably be something generic, actually. So here's what I would say. It's most likely a demon versus demon box.
Okay.
So, like, what was the
Wrath
box
and Rapture?
before? Wrath and Rapture. Like, odds are it's that. I don't think that's what it is.
Okay.
I'm going against the odds, and I'm going to say I think it's actually a Nurgle Mortals Rotbringers versus Hedonites.
Okay.
And I think that we're going to see some Blight Kings, I don't know, maybe some Tusk Oils, and like a new hero maybe for Rotbringers. Maybe a new unit, but probably just a new foot hero because of reasons. or maybe a new Harbinger of Decay. I could see them do that. Because that model needs updated, and then I think it'll debut the new Slaanesh Hedonites models.
Yeah. All right. Here's my thoughts. One, we've seen a lot of images of the various pirate stuff, very piratey looking things.
Right. Oh wait, can I finish?
Yeah, sure.
Because you're going right where I was going to go, which is, and this is the other half of it, is that the other alternative is that it's the rest of the drowned Nurgle force.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly right. That the whole vampires thing could turn out to be a lot of like zombie pirates and death pirates or Nurgle pirates or something in that regard, right? Like some form of like rotten zombie decay pirate type of thing. We could get that for AOS as well. That like decay could have a double meaning. It could be Death Guard and a new thing like that for AOS. There's been a lot of rotten ship looking, piratey looking, rotten zombie type stuff in the rumor engine. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we did see when we got Maggotkin of Nurgle, 40k had gotten they got some like new models and a new range. Was it the November? And I think we got Nurgle around January or December. So with that terrain piece, yeah, I can see that. I can see some type of benefit to AOS in Nurgle.
Yeah, and first of all, the little slice images we've gotten, right, do not all seem to be fitting into just Mortal Slaanesh or Death Guard, right? The two sort of main things. The
one
image
is
today,
very clearly Slaves to Darkness.
Well, yeah, the one from yesterday looked very much like a little Slaves to Darkness guy with weird fingernails, though, like a really weird rotten
warped
hand.
like a Forsaken style mutated hand.
Yeah.
But you saw the same scaled cloak that is on the current Chaos Warriors, the new sculpt Chaos Warriors, and you saw the little tassel hanging from the weapon that's on the Chaos.
We also had lots of signifiers, like his belt dagger was the same Chaos belt dagger they often have, stuff like that. Yeah. Today was just straight up a boat. It was like a Viking-ish looking boat with a shield and like boat pieces. Yeah. But
there was more to today, and I'll give a shout out to my club mates, Lord of Ruins here, who were mentioning that you can see in the bottom corner of it is the AdMech symbol, but it's actually a modified version of an AdMech symbol. So we've been discussing, is it a cultist or a heretic version of AdMech for 40k? That was one that we kind of picked up.
That'd be cool. That could be neat. So, I mean, like the point is that it's definitely hammer time. Oh, here comes the hammer, because get out your hammer pants. It's time to get into the leather daddies. Like, this is our Mortal Slaanesh. That's it. Lock it in. Like, there's no way. We didn't get the word decadence. We didn't have this coin. We didn't get a Lord of Pain that's buffing Mortal Hedonites. Not to get not to get a Mortal Slaanesh release, right? I mean, come on. Also, Dark Mechanicum would be cool if that was also like a reference to decay, of like the decay of machines and stuff. So that'd be really neat. Dark Mechanicum has been this thing that I know a lot of people have wanted for a long time in the 40k world, so pretty awesome. Dark Mechanicum would be sweet. So this is going to be a super exciting show. Very stoked for it. Yes, stop. It's Leather Daddy time. That's right. Absolutely. So get ready. Strap on your best chaps. Don't bother to put on any pants. You're ready to go for Slaanesh. There you go. Okay? All right. What's next, Tom?
Man, I've never been so happy to be wrong.
Oh, so about the Battle Force boxes?
There was a thread on the Facebook page, like the AOS Facebook page, and it's like, are we getting a Battle Force box this year? And like the third post down was me, and I said, no, we are not. Right. And then 2 hours later, this like 2 hours.
That prediction did not hold up.
Nope, didn't have much shelf life.
I was the same, Tom. I was convinced 100% there was no Battle Force boxes because we were getting these little mini boxes with Broken Realms. Yep. I thought if we get one more Broken Realms book this year, that would be potentially another 4 to 8 additional kits. I was like, nah, that's our version of the Battle Force box. More small ones as opposed to a big one. I was wrong. 100% wrong.
Yep.
So we've got count them, 4 AOS Battle Force boxes. 40K got 6, but that's okay. I'm not jealous or anything. It's fine.
I mean, they did have a new edition this year.
Sure. No, it's literally fine because like 2 of them are just Space Marine stuff. So they basically got 4. So we're not sure on the timing or the cost as to when they're coming out or how much they're going to cost. Bet more expensive. Okay. So let's talk the retail cost of these things. Like if you just total up the retail cost of everything in the boxes, what do you get to? I'm going to talk in USD because that's the stuff I'm familiar with. But obviously this is going to vary based on your local currency. So in USD, so in the United States, these boxes were traditionally priced about $175 in previous years when they've come out. Okay? I think they will be more this year. My guess is they'll be probably like 210, 215, maybe 225. That's where I think they'll end up. We'll see.
No. I mean, they would have to be, in order to be the right approximate value, they would have to be 240.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, we'll see. Like, there's different percentages they could be here of how this works out. Okay.
Right. But normally they're at the 35% mark. Like,
right,
that's
would be lower
common...
than 240. Yeah, they're 35% off, which would be, which is more than $90 off. Being the point, because they vary between 30 and 35% in savings historically. Okay, so let's just use the low end of that and say 30%. So let's do the costs. Yeah. Ogres, 308 US in retail.
Right.
That's an estimation number because I'm counting half a giant box. Okay.
Right.
In which you can't actually buy, but if you take half the giant box cost, it's 308. Now, shout out to Azyr Weekly, who talked about how there's this weird giant who just keeps following other armies around for no reason and no one knows who he is or why he's there. And the ogres were reporting that, yeah, we happened to pass too near to an orc wall and he stopped following the Ironjaws and started following us, which I thought was a great reference to the previous Ironjaws box that had a giant shoved in it for no visible reason. So, okay, that's whatever, cool, it's fine. I guess... If you've got this many extra giants sitting around GW, why the heck were they out of stock for so long, and why are they repackaged in a 2 for 125 kit? I've got words. Okay? Anyways. 308. Tzeentch is the highest cost one at 312 retail. It's got the big Lord of Change in it, which is awesome. But it's also got a bunch of Arcanites in it, which is not as awesome. But Yet.
We don't know what Tzeentch is. Surely we're going to see a Tzeentch Mortal book as opposed to a more Change Host book.
Yeah. So the KO box is 308, and the Gits is 290. They're the cheapest one. Important point about the Gits book: there is in fact 15 hoppers or bounders in the box. On the count and in the picture, it's wrong. It says 22 and only has 14 guys in the picture. They've answered 5 million Facebook comments saying, no, there's 15. Obviously, there's 15. Do you people know how we do business? It's on sprues, guys. They come in sprues. We can't just snip one out. That's not how this works. Like, we just screwed up the picture. So, like... But just what they had to deal with here because they took the wrong picture and printed the wrong box. That came in and they were like, oh no. oh beans.
I was going to ask you if you got the squig discount by someone clipping off one of your squigs from that battle box.
Right.
I was going to ask it, but you acknowledged it before I got there.
Yeah. Somebody asked, what's the factors of the price increase you're considering? Just that these are actually higher. These have more in them price-wise than previous years. There's just more figs in the box. I mean, that's basically it. In previous years, these things totaled to like 250-ish to 260 or 265. It's kind of the range they fell in for like if you totaled up the retail of all of them. This year, there's more stuff. So I'm assuming they're going to have a higher cost. I mean, that would tend to make sense. They'll probably hold percentage the same, but
they're putting more in boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. There you go. So, yeah. It was a very funny, very funny. I pity the poor Facebook person. As has been pointed out, when they started answering the question, they were like, "Oh, he hopped off." And right before the picture was taken, haha, and they had little like funny comments, and then like as the thread kept going and everybody asked the same question, after a while they were just like, no, there's 15, no, there's 15, no, there's 15, no, there's 15. They were just like clearly done. So, Anthony, what about what any of these catching your eye?
So the Iron Jaws one, I think definitely. Or not Iron Jaws, sorry. I'm actually interested in Daughters of Khaine, ironically enough. So for me, I was hoping for a Daughters one, so there's nothing. The Shadows and Pain probably gets me more. The Squig the Squig Troggoth one is always an interesting one. I would love to know the rationale on why they keep putting Squigs and Trogs together. Give me Squigs and Grots, give me Trogs and Grots. I don't understand that logic, but I think they're all cool. The Zench one as well, if they do give a nice little boost to the mortals, will be nice. I've got a lot of Zench demons. I don't have a lot of Zench mortals, so I think they're cool. I think they're interesting. Probably not for me. Shadow and Pain probably is more for me.
Sure. I was legit thinking about that ogre box because I have about a 2,000 point ogre army, but it's not as big as I'd like it, and I like the fat boys on the ground, not the big monster trucks, because I've got my sons for that kind of thing. And I was like, this would actually beef up my force by quite a bit, and I would just legitimately take the giant and put him I'd just make him into an extra giant for my son's army for when the Sons of Behemoth inevitably fall down enough points to where you can fit in an additional giant, an additional oneer. Then that's called future proofing, baby. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like, look, that's the inevitable future of the Sons of Behemoth is points adjustments down so we can fit in an extra singlet. Like, I'm just telling you the way the world is here. Okay.
Well, these battle boxes, I always find myself 6 months later after Christmas wanting those Battle Force boxes. Like, I wish I had grabbed them when I wanted them because of New Year, New Army, the meta, whether a new book drops. So I'm sure with some hindsight, I would definitely want to grab one of these 4 boxes. I don't know which one, but I think regardless, they're all good value. We just don't know it yet. And who knows what Broken Rolls is going to bring us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, almost anything is an interesting investment right now because we're at a point where you're almost always buying low and have the potential to just have your stock shoot through the roof. Yes, as we're going to talk about today when we get into Broken Realms. Speaking of which, I think that's all our news. Let's get moving. Are we good? Any other things you want to say about the news? Okay, news over. I'm taking a timestamp of news over so I can start timestamping in the description for this. That's right. We're trying to be professional. Okay.
Thumbnails, and now timestamps. Holy shite.
We've got merch. I told you that we were going to get our stuff together this year. Now, it took me a little while. Okay, that was it was a sort of New Year's resolution thing, but November, still in this year, we're coming through. Okay? So at any rate, yes, there will be timestamps. Let's talk pick of the week. Anthony, what would you like to share with everybody in the audience?
It's a hard one. There's actually been a lot of cool stuff, and I've been on holidays this week, which is why my background would look a little bit different to anyone who watches my channel. So I'm a little bit on holidays, which means I've been able to watch everyone else's content. So you mentioned Azyr Weekly. For me, that Twitter handle has just been incredible. So if you're not following the Azyr Weekly on Facebook or on Twitter, I would definitely go follow them. You've got some really cool meme channels and some really great, interesting places to get funny, entertaining AOS. I always find Jonathan smart as well as funny. So for me, that was probably my biggest pick of the week. I do have some others, like we talked about Doug last week. Again, Doug, 2+ Tough, just keeps knocking it out of the park. So from a lore perspective and Broken Realms, Doug was huge for me to get across this before I had the book in my hand.
Yeah, I love it. Great pick. Tom?
Thanks for stepping out of your lane, Anthony. No, what I'll say is
I held off the other ones. I purposely didn't say what you're going to say now. So
No, you did. I was gonna say, I picked it last week. I'm gonna pick Doug again because this content was so good this week.
It's
Sorry.
fine. We can all share in salutations for 2+ Tough's incredible coverage. Because what I'll say is, realistically, we are going to talk lore tonight as well. We'll talk some of the narrative, but we're going to talk about that after the rules. So we're going to do this in reverse order because when we get to the narrative, we are going to talk like just full spoilers about everything that happened. And so I want to give people the chance to like jump off that train if they're not interested in watching the spoilers. But those will come last, and we will warn. So if you're somebody who hasn't gotten your book yet, which I know a lot of people haven't, and you're wanting to read, totally understand. But at any rate, Doug does a great job of going through that. So no issue at all. Okay. My pick of the week is going to be about going back in time, which is our good friend Chuck, Strength Hammer, has a wonderful write-up in his blog on the history of Morathi and her time in the old world. Well and detailed for the Morathi is one of the most ever-present oldest figures in Warhammer. In the story of the world, she is extremely old. Like, she has been around and seen the rise and fall of basically everything. There are a few beings more aged than her. Okay, there are a few.
They're just simply what, Sigmar?
No, Sigmar's younger than her. A lot younger than her. Yeah. Lord Croak.
Okay, Croak. Yep.
Because he predates her. I honestly, I'm trying to think of any others, and I'm coming up shy. I'm sure there's a couple, but she's one.
She's as old as any elf in existence.
Yeah, sure. Who's still alive? Yes. Yeah. Who isn't like? Well, we'll talk
in
later.
Morathi's belly.
We'll talk later. Okay. Yes. But at any rate, if you want a great history of Morathi and everything that got her to this point, Chuck's write-up is fantastic. So I will link that blog post. It's awesome reading if you're looking for background on Morathi. Yeah, Croak is the only figure I can think of. So there you go, because everybody else is dead. Cinderfall says Croak is literally it. So I'm back in. If Cinderfall says it, I believe it. Yeah, Nagash isn't, because Nagash learned his magic from the Dark Elves. Like, he was a mortal man. And like, they were already Dark Elves at that point, which in Morathi predates the concept of Dark Elves.
Dark Elves, right.
So at any rate,
it's Morathi's son that created that Dark Elf distinction.
Sure. All right. At any rate, lots of fun stuff. Okay. So that's pick of the week. Sorry, I'm time-stamping here. Time-stamping.
There's been a lot of great content. Well, I'll stall you while you timestamp, but there's been some really cool content, whether it's on Twitch. There's a lot of Age of Sigmar stuff coming out, whether it's Mephisto or Haywo Twitch, and a lot of cool hobby hangouts right now during COVID especially. Cinderfall's been pumping out a lot of cool lore videos. There's a lot of cool stuff, so guys, go explore your world outside of maybe some of the channels you're already watching. A lot of cool stuff at the moment.
Yep. All right, so let's talk hobby time. Anthony, have you been able to work on anything when you're on vacay there?
I almost did. I ended up ordering another set of Gargants that I was going to hopefully put into my Armies on Parade board, but I got delivered yesterday as opposed to Monday. So unfortunately, no hobby for me this week. That the last couple of weeks I've been crazy working on Armies on Parade board and my 2K Sons of Behemoth army, because I have a tournament next month. No, not next month, next week. I literally have a tournament next week. So I'm going gun-ho, literally the same weekend for Armies on Parade. So just before I left, I poured a whole bunch of resin. I've been just painting nonstop. But it's been good. It's a really cool army. Really enjoying the character in Sons. And I can, despite already owning 3 Mega Gargants and 7 small Gargants, soon to be 9, I already can see myself buying more Mega Gargants because I'm familiar with the kit and I can convert it even more than I already am. So that's my hobby time.
Nice. I like it. Tom, what about you? What you been working on?
Can see an airbrush there.
This is where Tom lets us all down.
No, I've been doing some list building.
Okay. All right. That's like half hobby. That's like 0.5 counts.
I mean, but it got me semi-excited for the game.
Which is good. This is a necessary part of your process. I understand.
It is. Like, I really trudged through. I went, we'll talk about this in the like show, in the body of the show, but like I went full circle on like the Har Koran. We'll talk about this in the city thing. Like I really wanted to make that work, and I just looped back around to playing just my pure, like my old doc list, like model for model, basically my old doc list. Like went through the whole build process, and I was like, yeah, none of that's superior to this thing that I already have built in play, and so.
But now you've got to wait on the winter FAQ to see if they bust anything out of up in doc. Sure.
Right. Which it could, like, I can move some stuff around. But then that led me to like, well, I wonder where my other lists sit. And so then I went through a whole cycle of going through all my Fire Slayers back to something that I'm very similar to. Only I basically have to add like another gun hauler, but that's easy. And then so like, what ended up happening was like going and looking at new armies just led me to my old armies and tweaking them with a couple different units and stuff like that. So I'm getting a clearer focus on what needs to be done.
Okay, nice. So for me, it's been a good hobby week. I don't know if you can see it here, but see this top shelf right there where I'm pointing? That's my completed Sons of Behemoth army. That's 2K up on that shelf right there. So that's ready to go. I'll post the last mega that I finished up here on Monday this week. And then if I turn to this side, see this right here? These are my birthday presents. My birthday's coming up in a couple of days. And my wife was like, I'm not putting these anywhere. Here, just take them. You can open them now if you want. I'm just going to leave them in your office. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I was like, well, I'm going to wait till my birthday. But I'm pretty sure this box right here is a Mega Gargant. Like, I'm just, the size of it, it was on my list, and the size of it seems to match pretty close. So I have a feeling.
Like, I've opened these before.
Right, so I think I'll have another one there, which will be fine, because then I can either do like 2 and 6 or 3 and 3, so that's good. I would never want to run the 1 and 9 version of Sons. That's just not interesting to me at all. The big boys are what's fun. So that's cool. And I've started working on this beautiful bust from Diorigard, which is her. I don't know her name. I'm not even going to try to say her name. But this awesome bust. This is my reward for finishing my army. I get to spend time on a nice, beautiful bust and just work on some stuff and play with colors and really have a good time messing around with that. So yeah, that's what I've been working on there. And she's just starting out. Obviously, she's still in very early stages, but I'm real excited about her. Beautiful, beautiful sculpt. Did a show on Saturday with Andy and Henry, and it was an absolute blast. Those two guys are amazing, the Cult of Paint guys. If you get a chance to like take a class with them on the other side of all this COVID or go learn from them or stuff, I cannot recommend it enough. They're both just incredible hobbyists and even better, amazing teachers. So, with that done, gentlemen, I think it's time that we turn to... Whoops, wrong way. Sorry. To some Broken Realms. Morathi. Okay? So... 57... That's fine. Alright, Broken Realms. Before we get into the deets, gentlemen, I want your high-level thoughts. Anthony? Again, don't get any spoilers of the narrative, but you can talk some story if you want. Yes. What did you think of this book overall? What got you excited?
Well, it's an interesting question because I don't really play any of these armies in this book. Yes, you might try to technically get me that I play Cities of Sigmar, but they don't reward the builds that I play. I'm a human-based Cities player. I'm not a Dark Elf player. So for me, I was really hungry with the progression of the narrative. Yes, we've had Soul Wars, we've had some little spurts here and there, whether it's OBR and a little bit of OBR versus Archeon. Like for me, I picked up the book going in there with the narrative first, rule second, but also looking at maybe is there something in this book that might tweak me or kind of spark some curiosity to start one of these armies next. So I like it. Is it a silver bullet? All of these armies are going to go 5-0 at your next tournament? Probably not. But I think it's a cool book. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who is either looking to get more into the lore or has an interest in some of these armies. I think it's quite a good book.
Yeah. Tom, what's your 40,000 foot take on this?
A plus on the narrative.
Yeah, obviously. Yes. Incredible. By the way, just real quick, I want to hone in on that more. I'm having to do a thing where I give a spoiler alert and we're going to shove the narrative to later because what's happening is impactful enough and interesting enough to necessitate that. This is the first book that's come out in the history of AOS where I felt that was necessary. That's huge. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yep. No, you're right. So A plus on the narrative, A plus on the relationship of the narrative to the rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A B on the rules themselves.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. For me, this book is fantastic. Like, cover to cover, it's not a perfect book, but it's maybe my favorite book they've released in AOS. It moves the narrative, as I just mentioned, in ways that I thought they would never have the guts to do, in ways they should have been doing for a long time. It's interesting and evocative. There's all of the sort of peoples and races participating in the story are doing interesting, compelling, cool things. Everybody gets some spotlight time. Everybody seems awesome, right? Which is tough to do. It introduces a lot of really awesome new characters. Okay, like one of my constant laments is we'll sometimes get like a named character here or there, and it's like, okay, why would I care? Right? Like, we'll get a named character and we have nothing to base it on. Like, what made Gotrek and Felix such, enduring staples was not just because they were a cool dwarf and a cool human dude, right? It was because they had a lot of stories around them that people came to love those characters. And here we get stuff like Lord Veritant Kaiser von Brecht. This BA dude right here, like, I am in for this guy. Like, I am standing this dude, okay? He's fantastic throughout here. Because he also makes mistakes. Like, he does some dumb things that I'm like, wrong choice there, buddy. But that makes him all the better character, right? He's not like some perfect, flawless sort of... He's clearly, like, somewhat of a protagonist in the story, as a side protagonist, at least. He's a supporting character, but he's really, really strong.
No, the protagonist is on the cover.
I understand. I know that this is your main well, whatever, we can talk about it. But at any rate,
depends which side of the fence you're on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's sort of an antagonist as protagonist story ultimately, right? And he is the antagonist to her, I suppose. But at any rate, he's a compelling, interesting dude, and so it does a great job of introducing these special characters and making us sort of care about them. Rules-wise, it does a lot of great stuff, things that I've been asking for, like doing War Scroll rewrites, building up portions of armies that weren't getting the focus, that weren't getting the attention. This makes me extremely excited for what we're going to see in the rest of these books. Like, holy Moses, yeah. I am stoked for what... If every book is banging on this many cylinders, this game is going to be incredibly different in 5-6 months. Like, we will have so many different things going on. This is wonderful, okay? And Tom, your point about the narrative connecting to the rules, agreed completely. This is such a wonderful synergy of that, right? Like, everything fits in how when you get to the rules section, if you've actually read the story, you're like, oh yeah, right, this is exactly what I would expect to see.
This is what I was waiting on.
Right.
And so all of the changes mechanically that needed to happen to certain units, largely, like, I'm thinking about one big one specifically, like, makes sense.
Right.
So, like, they wanted to do a rules rewrite, and the fruit of that rules rewrite was the narrative itself.
Yeah, they grounded it in the story. Yeah. And so it's good. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna start with the rules. Okay, and then we'll come back to the story at the end. So to do that, I need to bring this up. And then I need to drag us over and make us smaller here. Boop, 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 boop.
Is it a PowerPoint?
It is a PowerPoint. That's right.
Dun dun dun.
As my hero would say, great success.
It is PowerPoint time, folks. That's right. You didn't think we were going to do a breakdown of this book and not have a PowerPoint. Of course we were doing a PowerPoint. All right. So, all right, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the Daughters of Khaine, okay? Our doc. Now, I have this stuff here from both Morathi and Shadow and Pain included because it is notable that for Daughters, there's actually 2 sources of changes to that army happening right now at the same time, right? And it's really... I really hope they do an article that kind of summarizes all these changes so that way people actually know where to go. Because I could see a lot of people buying this book and like not getting Shadow and Pain, even, you know, people who might be casually playing Doc and not realize how much of their army changed by what's in Shadow and Pain. Because it is a big difference. Okay? Like it significantly impacts your force. Okay?
Right.
All right. Let's start with Doc. Okay. All right. So the Daughters of Khaine in Morathi, we've got a new Morathi War Scroll. Both Morathis are on the table at once. Little Morathi, which is Morathi Khaine, and then Big Morathi, the Shadow Queen. We'll come back and dig into all this stuff. She is 2 drops. What this means is that you get the command ability, the awesome spellcaster, and the monster all at once, and she's now 600 points. Before we get, I'm gonna pause on each one of these. What do you guys think of new Morathi? Go ahead,
Anthony.
Anybody. Anthony, what do you think?
I thought Tom was going to say something. I thought I'd be polite and allow. I really like it. I think one of the biggest shames of the Mortal Realms, actually there's 2 big shames of the Mortal Realms. One is we don't see Alariel more often,
Sure.
and 2, we didn't really get to take advantage of Morathi. You were so quick to change Little Morathi into Big Morathi that we never really got to enjoy both beautiful sculpts. So to be able to put both of them on the table, to do it in such a way that it's narrative, it's thematic, and it's not game breaking. You still got the best of the old world, the old Morathi, but you've got some interesting play styles and some interesting threats as an opponent because, you know, I think old Morathi, you had the strategy, right? You do some damage, you know, with an endless spell or 2 in between battle rounds. You'd try to get those 3 wounds on ASAP. If you can take on the Little Morathi early, that helps you, you know, long game. But all of a sudden now the tide has turned and there's so many cool ways you can now use this model, both as the combat monster and the superior spellcaster. So for me, like, that's so cool.
Yeah, agreed. Tom?
Oh God, she's so good.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she
Like-
is. She is beast mode. Oh my God. Suck it, Alariel. Look upon what a real god is and despair. This is what 600
Alariel.
points of godhood should buy.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. This is what 600 points of God looks like.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you know what the best change here is?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, what? What?
It's that Morathi can fulfill all the roles on the battlefield she needs to fulfill independent of one another.
Yeah, sure. The sort of commander and spellcaster and backline person is literally separate from the forward bully monster that goes out on her own. Yes, you're not tying those things together as you often are with big god monster heroes.
So one of the challenges, that's exactly it. One of the challenges with piloting Morathi was making sure she was in the right spot on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
That your wizard was also where the monster needed to go. And making sure that you are navigating appropriately. Now, I'm going to put whoever needs to be wherever I need them.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
So big. It's just from a simple like battlefield organization standpoint. Like, yes, they increased her value, Like she went up 120 points, but I don't have to actually include a snake caster anymore.
Assuming you don't need snakes as battle line, sure.
Right. But like the key is that before I was having to include a Bloodrack Medusa in order to cast my Mind Razor.
Mm-hmm.
Now Morathi does that. Only instead of one spell per turn, she gets 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I'm giving up is the reroll ones to cast, which are significant. But I'm also getting 3 spells per turn now, which I wasn't getting that before.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a game in with New Doc this last week. Okay, so I got to play New Doc versus New Stormcast, which we'll talk about in a minute. And that was very fun. And Big Morathi, I might as well have just queued up the Wrecking Ball, because she came in like a Wrecking Ball really hard. Like Miley Cyrus could not have been blasting hard enough. Okay, she's amazing. The important things to note here that we should cover is that her big monster form is more damaging.
Yep.
She is much more scary in melee now. Her
and
previous
she was buffed up. She was terrifying before.
Right. Yeah. She's brutal now. And her Iron Heart of Khaine. Both Morathis run off of the 12 wounds of the Shadow Queen. Any wound you deal to baby Morathi just automatically transfers over to big Morathi, and big Morathi cannot suffer more than 3 wounds a turn, period, under any conditions. Forget about it. That's the end of the story. Done and dusted. Okay? So big Morathi cannot die until the bottom of 2. There's no between turn endless spells. There's no nothing else. And that's assuming you're putting 3 wounds every turn on her. Right? She is hard as a coffin nail.
That your Mind Razor Wizard cannot be sniped in turn 1.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Little Morathi can't die, period.
Correct. Yes. She only gets slain when Big Morathi dies. Then she just is automatically removed.
Right.
Yeah.
So you will have Mind Razor into turn 2.
Guaranteed. Yes. And honestly, often into turn 3, because it's actually like, one of the things that I'll say is there's plenty of ways you can actually end up protecting this. So there's lots of armies that can't do any wounds at the top of 1. And even that little extension, like if you save her wounds in the top of 1, so she automatically gets into 3, it's a complete game changer, right?
Yeah, and like you want to talk about other changes. Like Little Morathi always counts as a general in Doc.
Right.
In addition to whoever your general is. So you get a second general. So the abilities that are general specific, like command abilities that fire off your general, Little Morathi counts as the general as well.
Right. And so can shoot them off at like 12 inches or the longer range. I would also point out she can take control of commanding terrain, even if your other general is somewhere else, right?
Yep.
It seems a minor thing, but I mean, I use scenery rules every time, so it's a thing in games. And having multiple generals rules with commanding terrain, as I know from playing Invaders, where you have 3 generals in your army. Okay. So, that was always like, I had commanding all the time, baby. My general, I had one of 3 generals always sitting on commanding terrain. Anyways, so yeah, New Morathi is sweet and wonderful, and I love her.
Can I just add one more thing to Morathi?
Yeah.
I'm really happy that she got rid of her cheap tricks. There were 2 cheap tricks that I really didn't enjoy as an opponent. One was the Gaze of Morathi and removing model coherency and essentially deleting, potentially up to a half a unit because of, a negative experience or, something you miss out. So I'm glad that Gaze of Morathi has been modified. And then the other one is the trick transferring small into big. And, not having enough space, so you then have to leap forward, and getting that free movement has been removed as well. So I think for me, it's more of an honest game, and she's going to kick some serious ass based on these new War Scrolls.
Yep. And like New Gaze is a cannonball.
Yeah, it says like 2/2 neg, awesome. 3 rend, d6 damage. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And do you know what the range is on it?
Off the top of my head, 18 inches, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, she's got a really good range attack.
For a high mobility unit, yes, please.
Yeah.
The other thing with it, like I could go on, because the reality is that now Big Morathi, when she gets stuck in, she gives a bonus attack to all of your snakes and harpies nearby.
Yep.
And that's not insignificant.
It's
like
not at all.
that buff alone, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, why hello, life takers.
And it's a huge range on it too. It's 18 inches.
Like 18 inches.
I did not find that hard to say in that bubble.
And then the other big one, or the other big thing, that in my opinion is small Morathi now. Her command ability is super functional.
Yeah,
it's probably the best command ability in the army at this point, because it's a unit wholly within 24.
Yep, super long range, and they fight in the hero phase.
Or shoot in the hero phase.
Yep.
So now, like, you can make your snake shooters actually do some work in the hero phase.
And we'll talk about why that's really good in just a moment. All right, so let's talk about the new sub-faction, which is Cobra Kai. I know in the book they called it Xanthar Kai. I assume that's a misprint. It is, in fact, Cobra Kai. It follows the rules of life, which is strike first, strike hard, no mercy. So very important. It is snake-focused. The command ability in it is another +1 to attack for a unit, which is great.
Well, it's not just snake focused. It's snake or harpy focused.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm counting. I know you're all about life takers. I'm living that snake life. But yes, it's snake and harpy focused. You can give it... There's another command ability for +1 attack, so now you get +2 attacks if you've got Morathi as well, which is fantastic. Obvi. It has bonus bravery for all your snakes and harpies. That sounds insignificant. In most armies it would be. In an army with Mind Razor, where it's all about being higher bravery than your enemy to do bonus damage, it is very important. Because
harpies are at 8.
Yeah. Snakes go to 8. Snakes start at 8, go to 9 in Cobra Kai, go to 10 if they're near a cauldron. Like, suddenly you're higher than anything that's not a demon or undead, right?
Right.
Which is great. Or a starborn lizard for some reason. And then you get a bonus artifact, by the by.
Yeah.
Unlike most sub-factions, it's not that it doesn't set your artifact, it's that it just says, hey, have an extra one. And you know what Doc loves? Extra artifacts. So you can get that Iron Circlet, get that Shadow Stone, and still have something else to go party with.
Man, there's so many good artifacts in that book.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. But you can't take a realm artifact for that one. That has to be from the Daughter's book.
Yes, correct.
Right. You just spend that realm artifact on one of the other artifacts that you have from either your battalion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. So really good. This is what I played on Saturday. I did play Cobra Kai. Loved it. Thought it was fantastic. Is it Hagnar? No. Is it as competitive as Hagnar? No. I hope they break Hagnar in the winter FAQ. So that's where I'm living.
But if they don't,
sure.
Yeah,
that's fine. Okay.
I mean, if they don't, I'm going to 5+ Kraith.
Sure. Yes. Look, do the obvious things, please, in the winter FAQ. Break Hagnar, leave Calibron and Draichi Ganeth basically alone. They're probably fine. And then make Kraith 5+. And then we'll have 5 relatively interesting sub-factions to choose from that are all basically on the same playing field, right? And we'll have interesting play. So, very, very simple. Please fix. Thank you. And then we got 3 new battalions, right? So one of them is completely worthless, and we don't even really need to waste any time on it. I don't normally like to talk in those terms, but it's so bad I'm not sure I can wrap my head around its badness, which is the Shrine Brood.
Yeah.
What, you don't want to protect your shrine?
Yeah. It's not even a cauldron. If it was cauldrons, maybe I'd be like, okay, I guess, right? But it's like
you're like, I want to keep that +1 save.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. How about a bad pain aura?
Yeah. So 2 Blood Wreck Shrines, 2 Blood Sisters or Blood Stalkers, and 2 Harpy units. No, stop, get out of here. And you can kill the snakes or harpies to heal the shrines. The opposite of what I want.
But you have to kill all of them.
Yes.
You don't choose a unit. All units in range are damaged and lose models.
Sure.
All of them. Like, it says you
can pick any number of units from this battalion within 6 inches. You don't have to pick all of them. You can choose any number of units. I'm sure of it. I have it open in front of me.
Okay.
I'm literally reading the rules. That was a verbatim quote. You don't have to kill all of them. It's still bad. Let's move on. Let's talk about the two that are really interesting, okay? Which is Viperic Guard, which is cool because it has both versions of Morathi in it. 1 to 2 Bloodrack Medusae or Melusai Iron Scales in any combination, who you could also make your general to then unlock Battle Line Snakes, which is 2 to 3 units of Blood Sisters or Blood Stalkers in any combination. So this is like why I love Viperic Guard is it's a super tight core of your army, right? You've got Morathi, you got your Snake General, you got all your battle line. Ba-boom. This is the type of battalion I love, right? The solid foundation block, the cornerstone of the army that you can just build on with whatever other toys you want on top, right? And its ability is sort of once per battle, a hero from this battalion can use a command ability without a command point being spent. Sounds completely incidental. It's actually not bad. This did actually come in big handy for me during the game because just sometimes you will be out of command points and really need to use a command ability, and hey, you can. So that's kind of cool. So there you go. I like this. I like it because it has Morathi and everything I wanted to play in it. There is some discussion as to whether these battalions can be in any other subfaction but Cobra Kai that I think we should touch on real quick. Because it says on page 96, when you pick a Daughters of Khaine Allegiance for your army, you can say it will be Xanthar Kai or Cobra Kai. If you do so, it has access to the Temple of Khaine rules at the bottom of this page and can include the War Scroll battalions to the right. Now, the trick is, it doesn't in the War Scroll battalions say may only be taken in a Cobra Kai army, which is usually how they restrict battalions. Like in Wrath of the Everchosen, the previous times we've seen this, they actually will put the limiting text in the battalion. They didn't
it's in the same book. Like the Storm for the Stormcast are restricted. Right.
Harkorn as well. The Cities of Sigmar one is also restricted to them and Anvilgard. So I'm assuming that it's not restricted because in the same book they literally haven't said that it's landlocked.
Yeah, I agree, but it's interesting that comment is there. I would say it's an FAQ question, and that's fine. My guess is it'll come down as yes, you can use them in any subfaction. So, but we'll see.
It might also be worth calling out just to remind everybody who might have missed this because they're not Suns players, is that moving forward, FAQs are now a 4-week cycle, not a 2-week cycle. So that started with Sons of Behemoth, but it's also now carrying on moving forward. So just for you Broken Realms players, just FYI.
Yep. And then the other battalion is Scath Coven. Scath Coven is 1 Bloodrack Medusa bolded, which the other one was not, by the way. So the one in the first one has to be on foot. This one is bolded. So if for some reason you wanted to take that girl on the shrine, you could. Or the Melusai Iron Scale, which, by the way, it bothers me to no end. We'll talk about the Melusai Iron Scale in just a second when we get to Shadow and Pain. It bothers me to no end that we did not just slap that keyword into the text of the Melusai Iron Scale. She is disappointing in so many ways because of this. Like, we had the perfect hero, and you fumbled on the 1-yard line with such a simple change. At any rate, 1 to 4 Blood Sisters unit, 1 to 2 Blood Stalkers units, and 0 to 2 Canary Harpies units, bolded. And then your special ability is nobody takes Battle Shock. Okay. Cool. Like, again, if you're in for Snake People and Harpies, it ain't bad. You can get a lot of your army into this battalion, and it includes Harpies, which is good. Harpies were traditionally the things that were always increasing your drops. Obviously, what you're trading here is all your heroes, other than the Medusas, are going to be outside the battalion, right? So,
and you're only going to get 1 Medusa. You're not going to get multiples,
right?
Where like with the Viperic, you can,
I could see a 3-drop with this and Morathi.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure that's exactly the army I build, but that you can get to 2,000 points on that very easily with Morathi and that combination of units. It will fit with good sized units.
Yeah. The problem is that then you can't do the Iron Scale if you go 3-drop.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Here's what I'll say. As much as I love the Iron Scale and I'm stoked, I'm not putting it in most of my lists for reasons I'll talk about in a moment. Any final thoughts on the doc? That's basically the doc Morathi-based stuff. We're going to go to the Shadow and Pain. Any other thoughts,
Right.
gentlemen, on the Morathi Daughters of Khaine stuff?
I think
good.
I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier that that it's probably not going to replace Hagnar. If you are playing the Witch Elf build, it's probably not going to replace what you're currently doing, but it's just opened up a whole new option of building lists. And there are some good lists in here if you want to go down towards snakes and harpies. So if you're looking to expand your model, this is great. If you are a Witch Elf through and through, probably not your thing.
Right. This is the army I've been waiting for.
Yeah, but what I would say is this, like, even if you're a Witch Elf build, like, I love the changes to Morathi.
Sure.
Like, the changes to Morathi helped my Witch Elf build.
Sure.
And so, yeah, like, I don't think it's a bad situation.
Yeah, so let me answer John Ashley Smith real quick. John, we're talking about the Khaine Harpies, the Daughters of Khaine Harpies. Yes, there are new plastic Harpies for Warcry, but those are like more the Chaos Harpies. Khaine Harpies are the Daughters of Khaine Witch Elf looking ladies with bat wings. So,
Yep.
I'll sometimes shorten it, but I realize there are 2 units in the game that are called Harpies. Yeah. But
Khaine are probably what we should be talking about, are Dark Elf Harpies.
Yes. Yep.
Which ironically enough used to be the Chaos Harpies were the old Dark Elf Harpies anyway.
Right.
So,
all right. So Shadow and Pain,
confusion.
the box set, it did big War Scroll changes as well. So like we got a lot of War Scroll changes in this. So I'm gonna burn through this real quick. Here we go.
None of which were updated in the book itself.
No, it's not. None of this information on Shadow and Pain is in here. Okay, very relevant. New Blood Sisters and Blood Stalkers. The Sisters lost the Crystal Touch as an attack, and it's now an end of combat thing that you trigger. You roll 1 die, as long as you're within 1 inch of an enemy. You roll 1 die for every model in the unit, and on a 3+, it's a mortal wound. Okay? So you can't, like, jack the attacks of the Crystal Touch through the roof. I actually found this to be a really good rule nonetheless. Like, yes, your sisters are susceptible to getting hit, but when you double charge things, especially like heroes, like I double charged a unit and then just tagged to within 1 inch of a hero, chopped the unit to bits. The hero turned around and killed like 1 snake, and then I just mortal wounded him off the table without a second thought. Right? Like it was just berzap, he's dead. And I didn't need to worry about splitting attacks or anything like that, right? I just turned around and went, and he evaporated because on a 3+ on like, 8 dice or whatever I had left at that point, because I had lost 1 snake early in the game, he just gone, right? So that's fine. Yes, it's not as great as the world we imagined we lived in for 5 seconds when we thought we were going to get 50 million Crystal Touch attacks, okay? But I also think it's more fair. I wish most stuff that triggered mortal wounds honestly worked like this. Like, I wish the Evocators and the Eels all worked in this exact same way.
Evocators do work this way.
Evocators I thought were after they attack. I didn't think it was an end of combat phase.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
yes.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's different than, like, again, I like the end of combat phase trigger for this, right? Because then it means you can't just show up and just be like, and just pile onto a unit and blow them up, right? Like, there's still counterplay, right? This is the way this rule should have always been designed, and I applaud good design, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
The Stalkers have 2 shots now, which is real good. Like, we did it! We did it! We got back up to, we finally got it! The second shot!
So Stalkers were always, like one of the things that I doubled down on when we reviewed like the fixes was that like Stalkers, you couldn't point Stalkers appropriately ever.
Right, because with 1 bow shot, it just wasn't enough. They weren't putting out enough range damage. Yeah,
like at like less than 100 points, like like at what did I say? Like at 100 points, they're still not competitive enough.
Right.
Because Harpies are just better. You get the same amount of shots.
Yep.
And cheaper.
Now that you've got 2 shots and a pretty reasonable access to shooting in the hero phase through Morathi.
Like a tenor of those snakes look real enticing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I should say about the melee snakes and their ability to jack their attacks up through the roof is that, like, yes, they lost the crystal touch thing, but I had snakes pretty regularly in my game at 5 attacks a model with sippy cups and mind razor on, and nothing lived. Like, bravery 10 sippy cupped mind razored snakes are just, poof. I mean, they were doing like 40, 50 damage to things they attacked. Like, it was red mist on the other side of that attack, right? They are a glass cannon, but my god, are they, the cannon part is in all capital letters. So, like, yes, we lost some of the crystal touch, but we gained the ability to jack their offense way up. Just way up. Okay?
Yeah. Were you running them in 10 or
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Tenors. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was just going to correct me if I'm wrong, but they also now really fast too. There's some really interesting movement mechanics you've got with your snakes.
Yes, I didn't put the iron scale on here, and I should have, but let's talk about the iron scale real quick. That was sorry, I left that off. I was just thinking changes. So
he's so bad. He's so bad. Vince left him off the slide.
Sure. So the iron scale, the problem with it is it does not have the Bloodrack Medusa keyword. Hence, it cannot turn your snake's battle line. So it's always just an extra hero, which
he's attack. He's a hero attacks.
Always. It has another ability to grant +1 attacks that is basically impossible to trigger. Okay? Like, she has to go in for swing first and trigger when she swings and kills something, she gives out the +1 attack to other nearby snakes, right?
Wholly within 12 inches.
Yes, she has a tight bubble.
Unit on 40 mil rounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 12 isn't the worst bubble, but yeah, sure. It's not the best either. It's not Morathi's 18.
Terrible. Having played Night Haunt, 12-inch wholly within on anything but 25 mils is a nightmare.
That's a little extreme, but I will grant you the point that it's certainly not as easy as Morathi's bubble. The difference between a 12-inch bubble and an 18-inch bubble is truly massive in just pure radius, right? Like, the actual mathematical radius on the difference of that, it's like if you get a 10-inch pizza versus a 14-inch pizza, that's like the 14-inch pizza is like 3 10-inch pizzas or something, however crazy that works out. Just because, math is, circles are crazy, But, like, so you're never going to trigger that, but she has a command ability that can let your snakes run and charge, and if they run 2d6, which is great. Here's the problem. I never found... So I ran without that iron scale. I never would have had enough command points to use that. Never. That's the issue. Like, you're kicking the command points off of Morathi every turn to get, like, hero phase fighting or hero phase shooting, right? Not to mention you're trying to do other things that you're normally trying to do, like reroll charges or whatever, right? Because it's important that you land in this army. And you just don't have the extra command points to be tossing around that run. You just don't. I wish you did. But
I think when I saw Shadow and Pain come out first, it looked really cool. I thought, yeah, I could see where you'd really use it. And then, days later, we got Broken Realms and Morathi, and we've seen now what you can do with Morathi. And you're 100% right that the command point can be just used so much better than what you just said around the Shadow and Pain hero.
Right. It's a shame. But, that's not to say I'll play it at some point. Like, I'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Like, I'll give it some... I'm sure I can play with some builds for it. But, honestly, I haven't found the points. It came down to, like, no, there's just other stuff I wanted. Anywho, and then Heart Renders, the other big change is your I should have said Heart Renders and Life Takers, but I only think in terms of Heart Renders because I'm not Tom. And, Anthony, what was your...
I have 15 Life Takers on the shelf fully painted.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying.
Anthony, when I came to visit you and we drove down to CanCon together, who was your buddy that was driving? I feel so bad I can't remember his name. He was playing Doc.
Dane. He was the only player out of 140 players who played with DOK.
Yes, he was the one Doc player in all of CanCon. It was amazing. Shout out to Dane. Super great, nice dude.
And he didn't even run. I think he came 14th, and he didn't even run Hagnar.
Nope, he was running Calibron.
I can't remember what he... Yes, yeah. So
and
shout out to Dane.
He was running 10 packs of Life Takers, Tom.
Yeah, he was. Because 10 packs of Life Takers are scary as hell.
Yeah. My point is, you've got it. Look, Dane did it not in Hagnar, in Calibron, and came 14th at highest like obviously he was the highest placing doc. He was the only doc, but like nonetheless, getting 14th at
Life-
CanCon out of 140 people is not easy. He was kicking butt, and yes, shout out to Dane,
Life
who
takers
did
are
awesome.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people have actually, like, man, they have not come to terms with 4 attack life takers doing 3 damage each.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the world we're in now.
Yep.
Like, on a 14 move.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, yeah, like folks have not tapped into the life taker power. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, absolutely. But yes, all your Khaine have to drop by have to drop by turn 3 now. So if they're not down, basically,
3.
yeah. Well, they have to come down on turn 3, however we want to say it. If they're still up in the heavens on turn 4, they're dead. So by the bottom.
Oh, and by the way, those tenors of life takers are 160 points.
Yeah, sure. I understand. They're real cheap for all the damage they do.
Economical.
It is.
Yeah, I've been thinking of taking some instead of taking some Shadow Warriors in cities. So definitely good stock to be buying in.
Yes.
Yeah, and 50% of the time they just decide not to be hit back.
Yeah, because they float away. Yep.
Because on a 4+ they just float away and just disengage with whoever they just hit.
Yeah. Here's my honest answer for this. This is exactly what I wanted for Doc. This was an absolute home run, point at left field and crank it out there, right? Like, this is in the upper decks. This is great. All we have to do now is nerf Hagnar, and Doc is perfect. We've got a fully functional, fantastic army.
No, we need. No, one more thing. We need to actually make the avatar of Khaine do something.
Well, he does when he's on the back of the cauldron. Then he's really useful. Just the guy standing alone is pointless, and he always will be. But cute. I love that they put it in there. It's a cute thing.
I forgot he was a unit.
Yeah.
Make it a scenery piece. Make it a terrain piece for their allegiance instead.
Sure. I mean, I've got one free floating because obviously I have a Bloodrack Shrine in my thing, so I had the extra guy, and I was like, yeah, I'll build him. I'll put him on foot. I'll paint him. He's a fun model to paint. Mr. sort of Rio Jesus there. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I have 2 Bloodrack Shrines that I've not built either of them.
I like having Bloodrack Shrine. I'll use it occasionally.
They're both up there.
It's fine. Nope. It's not that much more expensive than just the regular girl on foot. It does have a lot more wounds. So because I've always run snake armies, right?
Right.
So, anyways, and it is a general that can turn on snakes as battle line. So,
and gets -1 to hit because it's not a monster.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. It can still benefit from lookout, sir. Yes, which is good. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Next up from Daughters. All right, we're time stamping. And next up we have Stormcast. Okay. Oh boy. Let's get ready to rumble. All right, so the Stormcast.
This will take 30 seconds. Like, this is just Liberator. That's it.
Broke.
Move on.
Broke.
Done.
Broke.
That's right. All right. Let's get excited, folks, because it's about to go down. So, before we get into the craziness, let's lay down the basics here. Okay. So, first of all, one of the common complaints about Stormcast is that they don't actually have allegiance abilities. I understand they do, but they're not real. They're just this, like, lightning drop thing. Everything is related to lightning dropping, and on total commitment, you lose it all. And if you don't have any reason to deploy off board, because there's lots of scenarios or situations or armies you're going to face where it can actually be negative to stay in the heavens because they could zone you out or have all sorts of negative externalities, right? And so that was kind of always the problem. And so instead we have Stormkeeps. And by the way, you talked about, like, the narrative connecting to the rules. Yeah, this is great. Like, the Stormcast that ride lightning come down from Azyr. The Stormcast that are in the realms actively living and defending and in the cities occupy Stormkeeps. They don't lightning bolt in. They ride out, right? Because they're there.
And they have different allegiance rules.
Yes. And they have different allegiance rules. So, there's a new set of allegiance abilities replacing the existing Stormcast, so you don't lightning drop anymore. Instead, there's a bonus to bravery, and you have the Shield of Civilization rule. And so the Shield of Civilization is Liberators get +1 to save and +1 to hit when they don't move or set up in the movement phase. This is going to be very important later. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So now the Liberator, the guy that's on the statue out front of GW, is good again in my estimation. Because this guy already had reroll ones to save. And now they can stand there and bulwark and be on a 3-up rerolling ones. Like, no other nonsense. They're just straight up. They're out there on 3-ups rerolling ones.
Always, if they don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they don't move. Fantastic. Okay. So that's wonderful from the start. I look at these the Stormkeep rules. I'm in it. I dig it. I think it's fantastic. These do combine with all the normal Storm hosts as normal. So like when you can be a Stormkeep version of Stormcast Celestial Vindicators or Astral Templars or, you know, whatever. Anvils of the Heldenhammer. In fact, the Anvils are obviously the main, like Kaiser von Brecht is an Anvils of the Heldenhammer character, which is also cool. We got a non-Hammers character now. So, great.
Yep.
Something we'd been wanting for a while. Anthony, before we get to the battalions, anything you're thinking on the general Stormcast stuff? How happy are you about Liberators actually being cool again?
I was just gonna make a point, just in case anyone might have missed this, is that the Stormcast rules are an option. So if you do like them coming from the sky and kind of, you know, riding the lightning, you can still run that version of Stormcast. But if you want to take advantage of the rules in the book, then you don't. So you come through here. I think I would probably rate this a B, or like a B plus. I really do like the rules. I think there's a lot of cool synergies between the cities of Sigmar and the Stormkeeps, and again, narratively, what a Stormcast look like when they're in the cities. I do think there was a missed opportunity when it comes to in cities of Sigmar. If you bring a Stormcast unit in, you do get the Hello Heart, you do get the Tempest Eye keyword on Stormcast. I think for me, it was the other side of not getting that kept it from being an A or, you know, a higher rating.
Right.
But I think it was cool. I think it was thematic. The battalions are sweet. I think you still get the best of the old world, but some cool new ways to play your army.
Yeah. The other thing I don't have written here, because it actually doesn't figure into much of, I think, how Stormkeeps will be played or how Stormcast is, but it's worth saying, is that it should be pointed out. I didn't write it down. But you do also have mortal auxiliaries if you run a Stormkeep. So 1 in 4 of your units can be Cities of Sigmar units. And your Stormcast Eternal heroes, if they use a command ability on the mortals count as having the Stormcast Eternals keyword for that command ability. The trick to remember is that that's all they inherit. Stormcast Eternals. They don't get Celestial Vindicators. They don't get Hammers. They don't get, you know, Stormcast Eternal Judicators or Justicars, or, you know, there's lots of weird things like that, right? They don't get any of that crap. So basically there's only 2 command abilities that you can use on them, right? Which is Battle Shock Immunity and what? +1 to hit, I think is the other one. Is that right, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Battle Shock Immunity and the +1 to hit from the basic Lord Celestin. Yep.
Yeah. Because those both just target Stormcast Eternals.
But none of the abilities that are in the Storm hosts, none of them have command abilities that you can use, because all of them target the Storm host keyword.
Correct. So like if you've got, let's say you bring in a big old unit of handgunners or Iron Drakes or something like that, right? You can't shoot in the hero phase with them with Anvils of the Heldenhammer, because that specifically says Stormcast Eternal Anvils of the Heldenhammer units, right?
Right.
So, and which those guys don't get.
Yeah, when you're in Cities of Sigmar, for example, you bring in a Knight Incantor in a Hallowheart army. Your Knight Incantor becomes a double spellcaster. It doesn't work the other way. So a Rune Lord can't take a prayer from Stormcast. You don't get that type of synergy.
They can.
They can, yeah, as it's written right now. Well, so as it's written right now, one of the interesting things you will still absorb is if you bring in a wizard, they will get the Stormcast spells, and if you bring in a priest, they will get the Stormcast prayers, because all it says is a wizard or a priest in a Stormcast Eternal army.
Just,
like keyword, like
keyword priest,
yeah. So you can technically get at the spells and the prayers, but you
until this is FAQ,
right? Unless they FAQ rule the other way. But yes, right now you can bring in, for example, a regular old battle mage, and he can grab a Stormcast Eternals prayer. Okay.
Currently.
A spell. Currently.
Or sorry, spell. What did I say? Prayer? Yeah, spell. Sorry.
Yeah. That probably won't survive, but as it currently stands, that's how that works.
Yeah.
But for gaining the Stormcast Eternals keyword, that's only for command abilities.
Yeah.
So, but we'll
yeah,
see.
Your wizards and priests work. The key is your general command abilities, like shooting the hero phase off anvils or other things anything in those things that specifically say you have to be anvils to do this. Those command abilities don't apply, right?
Yeah, when you looked at the old Stormcast, list back in the day, they'd always ally in a Hurricanum because it used to give a plus to hit to order units. So that's been changed to cities. So there's not a lot of synergy between them outside of that keyword that they're not getting. So there's still a role for me to play to bring in cities units, like really cheap battle line, or at least cheap screens that I think there could have been some more synergies between the two. But overall, I think they're pretty cool. And obviously we'll dig into the rules later on exactly what you get.
Yeah, shout out to Rerolling Ones Jack, who says you can also give them command traits and items. I need to go look at the Stormcast book. I'll believe you, Jack. You've been playing Stormcast for a while. So,
Yeah, because you can make a city's... it can be your general. You can make a city...
Sure. He could be your general. So he could get staunch. So you could, as he says, you could give an anointed on Frostheart Phoenix staunch defender, which is fine.
Correct.
Yeah, I would need to go look and make sure there's no keywording, but I'll believe you, Jack. So, hey, that's also cool.
So what he's queuing in on here is that staunch defender says add. No, it says add 1 to save for attacks that target friendly Stormcast Eternals units wholly within 9 inches of this general.
Right, which would still apply to other people. It wouldn't apply to him.
Right, so he could grant it to others, but it only says command abilities, not command traits.
Right,
that they get the keyword for.
The Phoenix would not absorb its own staunch defender. It would only pass it out to others.
Right.
Assuming that there's nothing in the command trait section that says Stormcast Eternal Hero or something like that, which I don't think there is.
Right.
I think it just says the general of your force can take one of these. I'm
staring at the page right now.
There you go. Okay.
So as we've all said, it's pre-FAQ. Like, who knows what the FAQ is going to bring?
Yeah, right. But it's the wizard and priest play is the most interesting to me, because I could see the argument for a rune lord and a bunch of
Iron Drakes.
Iron Drakes or Iron Breakers or something. Yeah.
The play here is a Rune Lord with a bunch of Iron Drakes. The Rune Lord has one of the prayers, probably the reroll, the buffing one that lets them reroll hits of one, or you could do it to incoming attacks are reroll 6s. Those would be good. You can't teleport the unit, unfortunately. That would be great if he could. But there are a couple tools that he would have that he could use in addition to, because that prayer is above and beyond the Rend prayer. So you could do both of those.
Yeah, I want to point out something that Jack is saying that I wasn't connecting, but Jack has nailed it here. I love this. This is good. I totally missed this, but he's absolutely right. This is fantastic. He said it's a way to be cheeky and get staunch defender in an anvils or basically any host army, because all the hosts say an anvils of Heldenhammer general or Stormcast Eternal general must have this command trait instead of the other one, but you're not. If you're the Frostheart Phoenix, you're not meeting the qualifications to take that. Jack, A+. I hadn't put that one together. I put together the prayers and the spells. I hadn't thought about the way that you can sneak around the force command trait.
I like where your head's at now.
A+ work, Jack.
Now we got a winner there.
Yeah, killing it with that. He's earning the Herald of Shooting title. Rerolling Ones, Jack. He's a smart one, that guy. Okay.
Oof.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. But anyways, who cares about any of that? Because let's talk about these battalions that are going to break the game. Okay, God. Here we go. All right, so there are 4 new battalions here, basically. I mean, there's actually 5, but one of them is a new mega battalion that you can't actually ever take unless you're playing 5,000 points of Stormcast. And they actually set up this one correctly, that there's just no humanly way. Like, this will never accidentally sneak into match play. This is like literally a 5,000 point army. It's meant to represent an entire Stormkeep. So there's Van Breck's Black Watch, which is fine. It's kind of cool. It's basically just a modified version of one of them we're going to talk about. I don't have any problems with it, but we're going to talk about it for free. Let's talk about the main three here, which are on the screen. So you've got Wardens of the Stormkeep, which is your new hero battalion. Okay.
Yep.
1 Lord Celestant, bolded. Important. Okay.
Yep.
And then 2 to 5 other Stormcast Eternals heroes. And this battalion can only be included in the Stormkeep, and it cannot include any monsters. Meaning no boss on Toralon or Stardrake, but you can be on like the Kitty Cater or whatever.
I love how 2 weeks ago I was complaining about the Lords of the Storm battalion. Like, it was probably only 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I said, like, here's the solution. Lord Celestant with a couple other heroes. And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah. This can be your entire grip of heroes, obviously. All 6 heroes could go into this one thing if you have all 6. I think they've got a great ability. At the start of your first hero phase, you roll a die for each hero from this battalion. You add 3 to the roll for your general, so he does this on a 2-up. Everybody else is on a 5-up.
Yeah,
and you get a bonus command point. It's just starting with a bunch of extra command points.
That's what Lords of the Storm does, functionally.
Yep.
Like, the only heartbreak, the thing that's actually the deal breaker for me for this battalion is the fact that I don't get the Stardrake.
Yeah, no, it's what broke my heart too. But I'm hopeful for the future that we'll get a monster-focused Stormcast story in here somewhere that's going to be all about, like, the Lord on Toralon or the Lord on Stardrake or whatever. And that's what will make me want to do a Ratcast army.
I hear that. Like, for me, though, when they dropped, like, when I hit that clause, I was in 100%.
Sure.
Like, I was all in on this battalion. I was like, this is everything I wanted. And then I got to the end, and I went, oh, I can't include a hero. That's fine. You know, a hero on monster. Sure. I guess that's fine. You know, like, I was like, okay, that's fine. And then it hit me. I was like, well, I'll just add a drop, right? And just still add my Stardrake. And then it hit me that I now have a Lord Celestant tax that I have to pay.
Right, sure. No, I get it.
Because I don't want any of the other Lord Celestants. I only want the one on Stardrake.
Well, there is one Lord Celestant I really like in this, which we'll talk about in a moment, but he's not the regular Lord Celestant. Okay?
Sure.
So, notably, this is the bolded Lord Celestant. Okay?
Yep.
Which means that Vandus Hammerhand, for example, who's a Lord Celestant on his Dracoth, could be your Lord Celestant you take in this battalion.
Yep.
Or our old friend Gavriel Sherheart, who is also a Lord Celestant, can be taken in this battalion.
As if this guy, as if he needed a better battalion to buff him.
You know, you remember how Gavriel Sherheart's command ability can still be, like, button pushed as many times as you want? And you know how this battalion gives you, like, 50 command points to start the game? That's an interesting thing I'm pointing out. Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, 1 + 1 = 2. I was going to say, if only there was a battalion that would give you enough command points to allow Gav to come back into the game. If only.
Now, I mean, and it's fine. Now, if only there was some way. Why isn't there some way that I can just, like, take my entire army and put them, like, 9 inches away from the enemy and then just spam Gav's button so I automatically make the charge every single time and just smash my entire force into them at the top of 1? If only there was some way to do that. Well, I guess we'll have to keep reading. So,
well, Vince, at least we don't have any really overpowered units that could go in and then really take advantage of that Gav bomb. Like, we're really lucky not to be in that position now.
It is nice. You know what? We better keep reading. Let's see what we find. Okay.
Is this like a TV shopping network? But wait, there's more.
But wait. No, actually, it's a rap song because it's but wait, it gets worse. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to talk about the Storm Tower Garrison real quick because, fine, we have to. It's the next one in the list.
I actually like this one.
Yeah, I know you do, and it's fine. Actually, this is a perfectly fun one you could build most of an army around. It's a Knight Vexillor, which is your teleporty banner guy, right? That's the
Yep.
2 to 4 Liberators units.
Which has no range on the teleport, by the way.
Yeah,
and no
it's just
restriction
shoot 'em
of
anywhere.
enemy units. But no, it's pick up any unit anywhere and put it back down 9 inches away anywhere.
Yeah, it's great. When I played against the Stormcast this last weekend, he was using the Garrison and had a Vexillor in there and did just that.
Yeah.
It was good. 2 to 4 Liberators, great. Yes, rerolling one. Jack got the reference, absolutely. Jack, you're man. Which is great because, as we'll find out in just a second, we want lots of Liberator units in this army, in this particular battalion. Probably 5ers of Liberators in this for the most part. You get 1 to 2 Paladin units. So Paladins are obviously like your Evocators and your Retributors and all your big 3-wound, swing a big giant hammer or axe guys. And then you get 1 to 2 Justicar units, and Justicars are your shooters. So these are your Judicators, your Castigators, and your Raptors, either your Long Strikes or your Hurricanes.
Yep.
And then what this gives them is the Paladin and Justicar units from this battalion, wholly within 12 inches of any Liberator units from the same battalion, can use the Shield of Civilization battle trait. Meaning, if your shooters don't move, and they're standing near Liberators, they're getting... thank you. Raymond corrected me. Yes, it's not Evocators. It's all of the Retributor original version. So whatever they're called. Retributors, Decimators...
The Sequitors. The Sequitors
No, the Paladins are only the original 3-wound guys.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking Redeemer. I'm jumping ahead to the Patrol. No, Redeemer is Sequitors.
Yep.
Yep.
At any rate, yes, thank you for the correction, Ramon. That's right. I named the wrong guys because all these Stormcast names are, like, the same. So, at any rate, so your shooters, like, can just stand behind Liberators and get +1 to save and +1 to hit. Fantastic. Your big Paladins, if they keep Liberators in tow, like if you keep a little 5-pack of Paladins, of Liberators, just literally running behind your Paladins when they fight, suddenly they're getting +1 to save and +1 to hit. You can still charge with Shield of Civilization. You just can't move or set up in the movement phase.
Right.
So there you go.
Right.
So it's cool. This is a cool battalion. I like this. It's fun. It's you could build a very big army out of this.
Like, you could do a 2-drop with that and the Hero Battalion.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you could also do a combat or a real shooting focused one. So if you want to drop down and do an alternative version of shoot cast and drop down those Raptors, drop down those Judicators, there's that build, but then there's equally the Liberator build, which then kind of leads us into the next one.
Now let's get worse. Here we go. All right, the Stormkeep Patrol. This needs to be undone. Like, tomorrow. This needs to be undone. The FAQ should just be like...
When I read this, I was like, I'm talking to Vince, and I said, you know what I miss? Vanguard Wing.
Yeah, what we all missed was Vanguard Wing. It's what we need more of in our life. This needs to be unwritten. Fast. Okay, let's talk about this thing. Stormkeep Patrol. Requirements. 1 Lord Veritant. 1 unit of Gryph-hounds, which is 6 Gryph-hounds for 120 points, and just so we're all on the same page.
There's a tax there.
Sure. Is there? Because actually, in the inevitable mirror match of Patrol versus Patrol, theoretically, you get to pre-game shoot them when they pre-game drop on you.
When they pre-game setup, you pre-game shoot. Awesome.
Correct. So you have to have the dogs to counter each other. Okay. We're about to go down the rabbit hole here, folks. And then you have 2 Redeemer or Justicar units. So the Redeemers are the Liberators or Sequitors. In this case, we're going to pick Liberators every time and twice on Sunday because hell yeah, we are.
I could do a 30 and a 20.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm all in, baby. All right. What is the special ability of this battalion? The first one, this book. The first one was like some command points once. The second one was like, if you maintain this kind of complicated strategy, you can get like, +1 to hit, right? This one, all right, after armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, you can remove the units from this battalion from the battlefield. Just take them all up. If you do so, you must then set up the Lord Veritant from the battalion anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from enemy units, and then set up any other units from the battalion wholly within 12 of the Lord Veritant and more than 9 from any enemy units. Meaning that I am going to take my 2 Redeemer units. Let's do the fair version of this. Okay? Let's just do that. Let's do the super fair version of this. You ready? My 2 Redeemer units are going to be 30 Liberators and 20 Judicators. Okay?
Sure.
Sure. This is the fair version.
This is the fair version. It's not what I've seen, but it's the fair one.
And I'm going to, before the game starts, set up my whole army 9 inches away from you. I'm going to set up 30 Liberators, 9 inches, not my whole army, but I'm going to set up a huge chunk of my army. 60 wounds, 9 inches away from you. Okay? And I'm going to put the Judicators on the other side of the Veritant, right? Or behind them, so that, shielding them, right?
Behind them is the right option, yes.
Yep, exactly. Behind the Liberators. And then if I'm like Anvils, which I certainly could be, right? Then I'll just shoot in the hero phase with all of the Judicators.
Yep.
Easy enough.
Triggered off the Veritant. Yep.
Triggered off the Veritant. Yeah. 100%. And then my Liberators will all just will move if they want to. They'll lose their bonus, but they could. Or they could just charge you. Or if we have, say, also a Warden of the Stormkeep battalion floating around in here, as you can easily fit both of these into an army. I built like 4 different variants of this that had both of these. Then I've also got Gabriel Sherhart, okay, who's
with a huge bubble,
who's going to be like translocated up or something like that into or Vexilord up, right, or whatever,
yep.
And put him in there just so he's close enough, and then he's going to wham slam bam the plus 12 to charge button with all my bonus command points, and I'm going to then charge my 30 Liberators like 21 inches into your lines, just making sure I get exactly the charge I want, so I wrap way deep in. Like, I am deep in your guts at that point, because I'm making like a 19-inch charge from 9 inches away. I am in you, okay? Like, deep in there. I'm touching every hero. I'm tangled in your army, okay? And now I'm on a 3-up rerolling 1s.
With a 60 wound unit.
With a 60 wound unit.
On a 3-up reroll 1s. And if there's a Celestant that can, or a Castellant that can run fast, a 2-up reroll 1s.
Sure. There's all sorts of fun things I can do.
Warrior Brotherhood 2.0?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting variants of this based on what you do. Whether you go like for the shooting thing and you drop down and you go anvils and you pew like mad. You can go hammers, which is actually really interesting, and do the Gav bomb thing like I just talked about. You could, and by the way,
my go-to here when this dropped was go Astral Templar.
Oh yeah, my personal favorite too, Astral Templars. You might say, Vince, what does Astral Templars do? Tom, what is this crazy thing you're talking about? We've never played Astral Templars. Tom, why would I want to play Astral Templars? Tell me more about this.
Because the command trait for your Astral Templars, which is of course going to be your Lord Veritant, who is reset up with your entire army, is after setup is complete, but before the battle begins, friendly Astral Templars units wholly within 12 of this general can move an additional 6 inches pre-game. So now
there a command
is 3 inches off of your line.
Right.
Go.
Yeah.
Isn't there a command trait that allows you to move up to 5 inches, or isn't there?
No, different thing. But no, I can move 6 with Astral Templar straight away. And the key is, in that build, I would take every Liberator I can. It would be 2 units of every Liberator I can shove into this 12-inch circle. I would start 3 inches off your line with something like 100 to 120 wounds of Liberators. And I would absolutely Vexilor or translocate a Lord Castellan up there to also be Lantern buffing one of the units. So one of the units is on 2-up rerolling 1s, and one of the units is on 3-up rerolling 1s. And I'm going, here's 100 wounds. Just deal with that. Just deal with that. Like, if you're not somebody who starts off board or can teleport, right, you lose. You lose the game. At setup, you lose the game.
because you're going to chew on all of the wounds.
Correct. This is the toxic part of this. Like, joking of funniness aside.
Because you know what? I've made this list before. It was my Nurgle list.
Yeah. Like, this is seriously toxic against a huge portion of the meta. Now, there's some people who will be able to get out from under this oppressive thing, right?
But
because
not
if
a
you've
lot.
got enough flyers, maybe you can retreat over the top. I mean, you can make it very hard for them with 50 or 60 Liberator bodies for them to actually make it hard for them to retreat over the top of you forward. Like, they have to have a heck of a flight speed. Sure, some armies have some teleports. If they have a big null deploy or can start largely off the board, that's fine. By the way, you can still zone them out with your own
By the way, yeah, I'd say if they did that, you know what you do? You zone them out.
Right.
And you just
all
push
your
off the
heroes
base.
and all your dogs just spread and zone hard, right? Like, every Griffhound, your bonus Griffhounds and your 6-pack of Griffhounds, they're just spreading to be board control, right? So
Right.
they can't drop anywhere. But yeah, but there's plenty of armies that it's just like, oh, well, you lose now, right? Like, you just lost this game.
Have fun grinding.
Because I put 100 to 120 wounds, an army's worth of wounds. Let's be real frank here. The average wound count in an army in Age of Sigmar right now is 125-ish. Okay?
Yeah.
So I just put 100 to 120 wounds on touching you on your line, regardless of who goes first. Like, I'm on you with Astral Templars, right? And if I go first, which I'm gonna probably be like, there's a couple builds I made of this. One was 3-drop, one was 4-drop. You can get this pretty low, right? And a lot of my stuff is on 2-up rerolling ones, and a lot of the rest is on 3-up rerolling ones. Like, good luck. Just good luck. That's my answer. And like, if I go first, I'm gonna do a significant amount of damage to you, by the way, because Liberators with that +1 to hit, they will actually do the work. Like,
yeah, and you don't have to move at that point. You can just charge.
Right, correct. You just charge. That's it. You're 3 inches away. You just charge.
And you don't lose that +1 to hit, +1 save when you charge.
Correct. And like, many armies that will just be stuck in. It's just like, well, all the rest of my stuff that I mentioned, all those dumb dogs and the rest of the heroes and everybody else I've got in the army, they're just literally going to sit around and camp every point. And by the time you get free of this, I'm so far ahead that, like, you're done. That's it. Like, have fun. That's why this is toxic. Right?
I may have started building Liberators.
Here's the thing. I hope they fix this. I really do. But Liberators are still really good again. Like, this battalion is just bent. Okay.
But even in the absence of this battalion, let's be clear.
Yes.
They did. Liberators, they did it. Liberators are wonderful. I would run a bunch of libs in a Storm Tower garrison.
Right.
Like, as much as Vince is he's talking about the patrol, I would run a garrison with a Wardens of the Stormkeep. 100%. Like a dual, like that is a 2-drop viable Stormcast list.
100%. I think it's solid too. You can have a lot of different units in there. There's a lot of different play in there. I think that's actually, like, just the versatility, a lot of that, because it's very other than the Liberators and the Vexillor, it's like, and the one Lord Celestant, which again is still bolded, so you can have lots of different variations on that. There's actually a lot of different play in what exactly you could choose there. So yeah, I dig it. Anthony, what do you think of all this nonsense? Nope, Anthony's still muted. He paused for a minute. Anthony, what do you got?
I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
Look, I think this is really big FAQ risk. I think I would not be going to eBay right now and buying all of the Liberators. I think there's some cool stuff coming, but you know that an FAQ is coming because there's just some brokenness coming out of these builds.
Yep.
It's so amazing.
And by the way, the Van Brex Blackwatch is just the Stormcast Patrol again. It's the same one that's broken, but it also gives Van Brecht like a unique ability. But it's much more dialed in, right? What I mean is, like, you have to have Judicators units, not other things. You have to have Castigators. Like, he has very specific unit choices. that you have to have. It's the same ability, but on a much tighter list of units. But it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, please unbreak this. Thank you.
The only other thing I think about is that Cities players love the Iron Drakes with the bridge, Soulscream Bridge, and teleporting that Warden, teleporting that Rune Lord. This is just a guaranteed version of that on steroids if you build it out with Vanguard Raptors or Judicators, let alone tapping into the other side, which is the combat-focused Liberators, whether they're in combat or just taking up the board. This is going to be the must-watch battalion when tournaments run until NFAQ comes. So start thinking about what you would do if this happens.
Yeah,
it's just too good.
There's lots of non-jank in here you could do that's just oppressive, right? Like 30 libs and a maxed out unit of Hurricanes, right? In something, in whatever you feel, in the flavor of your choice, like Anvil or something, where they're just bubble wrapping the Hurricanes, who are now easily dropping within range to unload 6 shots in the hero phase and 9 shots in the shooting phase, right? And they're gonna do it on relatively good numbers there, because it's just, you just doing it. It's great. At any rate. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love all of it.
Sure.
I mean, like, it's just so egregious.
It is egregiously terrible. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Okay. Time stamping. Let's go to... Oops. Cities of Sigmar. So let's talk cities.
Oof, we have so much left of this book.
I know. It's yeah. This is a big book. I told you this is going to be a marathon show. Like, I warned you. Fortunately, it'll go quicker from here. Here we go. Cities of Sigmar. So Har-Kuron. This is a little spoiler, but there's no way to talk around this. Formerly Anvilgard. Anvilgard is no more. It is now the city of Har-Kuron. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there you go. Okay?
Bye-bye.
And you can still play Anvilgard. You can... you're just representing either partisans that have, are fighting to retake control of the city, or you're playing a past, like a historical army. Fine, great, perfect, exactly the way they always should have done change like this. Thank you, please keep doing this. Much appreciated. Well done. So it's obviously still in Akshi. You lose the normal Cities of Sigmar allegiance. Mm-hmm. You can only include Darkling Covens, Order of Serpentis, Scourge Privateers, and Shadowblades. 1 in every 4 can be Daughters of Khaine. Okay. You get a new prayer called You get a new prayer. It's not called Catechism of Murder. It's called...
it's called Spammable Catechism of Murder.
Right.
That's what it's called.
Hold on. I've got to look up what this is actually called. It is called Incitement to Murder. Sorry, I wrote Catechism of Murder because that's all it is. It's just Catechism of Murder. 6s are double taps, right? It's a prayer you put on people, and 6s are double taps, but it also works in shooting. Yes, which is what I think.
And it can be repeated.
And it can be repeated. Yes, there's a way to do it multiple times. And you get a new command ability for a very large bubble of Battle Shock immunity, where you can basically an upgraded version, or the same version as before. You can ice a guy, and you can make an example of someone Commissar style, and then everyone else in a radius around there will run is Battle Shock immune. So cool beans. Yeah, I mean, Har-Kuron is interesting. It is sort of its actual allegiance abilities beyond what I've talked about. Is the way that works out is there's also full relics and a spell lore and command traits and everything. Like, it is a full city, right? But it's much more restrictive because you can only have these dark elf units, but you can bring in daughters. I've seen some people have some interesting play though. What's that?
It's not a full city though.
Why do you say?
So it loses all of the base abilities of cities and doesn't gain anything to replace those.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. It has a new set of stuff that you wouldn't normally get that much of. But we can, whatever.
So to be clear, what it does is it changes your composition rules.
Yes.
And it gives you a prayer for Khainite priests only.
Correct.
That's it. That's the entire army. for allegiance abilities, and so you have altered composition rules, and you have a prayer for the 1 and 4 priests that you include in the army, and that's it.
Yep. And no, I don't disagree with you. I think that's a big cost, right? That being said, I think this is interesting, especially for people like thematically. This is on point to me. If you were an old school Dark Elf player, and what you always wanted was to have like a new refactored, all the Dark Elves in with some daughters as spice, this can get there, and it's not bad. Like, don't get me like, I do think this army is still quite interesting. Like, there is some good stuff in here. Their lore is good. It's basically an upgraded version of the old Anvilgard lore. It's
Anvilgard married with the Dark Elf speller.
Yeah, correct, exactly. It's like they've got the full, a full 6 spell list. Which, by the way, remember, most cities don't have. Only Hallowheart has a full 6 in the base book, right?
Right.
It's like they have a great artifact in the Trader's Banner. Like, sometimes one good artifact is just that good, and this is just that good. The Trader's Banner, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target friendly units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. That's a huge bubble of -1 around the bearer. Like, that is quite solid, right? Now, I'm not going to say that you're not giving up a lot, because I do agree with you. You give up a lot here, right? No doubt about it. I think this is a more...
It's egregious how much you give up.
Yeah, I think this is, in the end, I think both of the cities are honestly, like, the city stuff is more narrative than it is fixing. It's more for, like, people who had very specific armies they wanted to play, right? Very specific themes and sort of things that they wanted to play into. And this does hit those notes, right? But it's not displacing any of the actual cities in terms of competitive capability.
Right. No, I think that is dead on. Anthony, I'll let you jump in before I go on my rant.
No. You're right. This to me is a token olive branch to those Dark Elf players who wanted to bring their Witch Elves or their Hag Queen or bring in something into their cities that they couldn't quite do with the 1 in 4 in cities. It is a nice olive branch. When we get to the battalion, I guess it then asks the question: is your list just better under Anvilgard as opposed to one of these new cities? And you probably could argue either way, because you're right. You do lose the Loyal Shield rule. You do lose Wise Counsel, from the Adjutant. You do get 3 of the. So you still get the Anvilgard spells, so that the 3 original spells get brought in plus some extra spells. So I'm a little bit disappointed that the named Sorceress on Black Dragon didn't get a War Scroll. I would have liked to have seen that.
Or have her have some real unique abilities that buffs that War Scroll up when it's her in a real way. Because it is like an underwhelming War Scroll. And that's a pain point for sure.
A Black Dragon having a 5-up armor save kills me. It hurts me deep. Dragons are such a majestic unit, yet this has a 5-up. Like, I struggle with that.
Yeah. I agree.
Get the hell out of here. She has the same armor as a naked witch elf.
Sure. Yeah, I get it.
It's egregious. Like, so for me, Anthony, I hear you comparing it to original Anvilgard. But you didn't even mention one of the most, like, one of the largest losses, which is maximized endless spells.
Yep.
They lose the ability to put a spell mirror anywhere on the table, which is a really big deal if you're trying to do vitriolic spray. And
you also don't get your gyrocopters to take advantage of spray.
Right. So
now a witch elf, a 30 block of witch elves with spray, kind of a big deal.
Sure, or dark shard shooting, but again, like I saw Simon on Honest Wargamer Rob show put out an interesting Hark Huron list. It was fun. Again, I think there's like interesting builds here, but at best they're going to be interesting. Now, who knows? This is just my read on it, right? Like, if Simon says he's interested, that dude is a cities player extraordinaire and he knows his stuff. But, to me, this reads, again, both of these read as like, hey, here's some fluffy stuff you can do, right?
So I crunched the permutations of this army. like the Hark Huron. Like I ran the numbers of like, okay, what do I take to get up to 12 units in order to run 3 Daughters units? And at the end of the day, like I just realized the army that I want to play is just better going pure Doc.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and actually one of the biggest disappointments to me is the battalion. We didn't really talk, like, I mentioned the named character battalion. The Kraith Shadow Host, which is the Sorceress on Black Dragon, which is Drusa Kraith. And then 1 Dread Spears unit and 1 Dark Shards unit. I hate that it's so hard locked to one of each of those, right? And not like 1 to 3 or something like that. It just feels like they could have done that kind of thing. Like that's even what's his name, Van Brex, is a little more open ended than this. Okay, because Van Brecht is like 1 to 2 Judicators units. Okay, cool, right? There's some play there. I can choose to lean into this more or less, right? And you know, it's not that it doesn't have like some okay abilities, like where you can make it so your guys get +1 attack, but subtract 1 save. Like they get 1 save worse. I don't really care on my Dark Shards. I mean, that's what I'm using that ability on, right? And it's not actually even a command ability. She can just choose to do it, which is cool.
Right.
But I just wish that was like 1 to 2 units of Dark Shards. Even if it was just like 1 to 3 units of Dark Shards or Dread Spears, I would be like, great. Okay, now they're actually like might see some play here, right?
Given the restrictions of the units you can take in this particular city, I'd rather just move on to the other city. I'm not prodding you to move on, but I feel like the list is better served in a Mist Haven, or you can do more things with Mist Haven than, I don't know. For me, I'm just like, eh.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, I mean, both of you guys can testify to this. Like, I bitched about this for like 2 hours one day.
Sure.
Because the reality is that like I wanted this to work. I wanted to play the Dark Elf army. I have a Daughters army. I wanted to spend money to create a unified Dark Elf army. Like I have some Executioners, I have some Dread Spears, I have a lot of this stuff. I want to go out and buy a Black Dragon and put together a nice, competitive, fun, mixed force. And I tried. And there's just nothing that like was going to be reliable enough. Like I just had to like strain over backwards in order to try get any functionality out of the Vitriolic Spray because of the non-maximized endless spells and because of the limited range and because of the lack of teleports, and there's no synergy between any of the sub-factions ever.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
And like it was really disappointing.
Yep. All right, let's talk Mist Haven or Mist Hoven. Mist Hoven. I understand its pronunciation is probably because it's the A with the little circle over the top, so it's probably Mist Hoven. But I'm going to call it Mist Haven because that's the letter A, and there is no A with a little circle over top of it on my keyboard, so there it is. So Mist Haven, or Hoven, as ever you would say it. It's a city in Ulgu. Happy to see additional realms being opened up for cities, so that's cool. I want to see much more of this over the course of Broken Realms. It is basically a big shadow port of a bunch of boats tied together, and it can move around, which is a really cool idea for a city. Like narratively, this city is very, very cool.
Narratively, it's Anvilgard 2.0. They just scrubbed off the label. They changed some of the abilities, and they're like, "Hey, you want a shady city? Well, Anvilgard doesn't exist anymore, so have
the even shadier city." Yes, this is like the real shady city. This is the real Slim Shady. Yes. So, okay, now let's talk about their generic ability that they have: underhanded tactics. Instead of setting up a friendly Misthaven, Warder Serpentist, Shadowblades, or Scourge Privateers unit with up to 10 models on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it's set up as a flanking force, as a reserve unit. You can set up one unit in a flanking force for each Darkling Coven's Free Guild or Duradin unit you have already set up on the battlefield, so basically 50% of your army can go off board. And at the end of each of your movement phases, you can set up one or more flanking force units on the battlefield 9 inches away from enemy units. At the start of the 4th battle round, if they're not deployed, they're dead. Okay, great. Fantastic. You also gain special like magical narcotics that are a little bonus thing you can get for your heroes that are all one-use things, and you have an artifact list that's got a very interesting artifact on it that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a moment. Namely the Strangler Kelp Noose. But you do not get a spell lore, and you do not, which is sad, right? Like I'm sad about that. And you don't
get drugs. You get drugs.
Yes,
you get drugs.
You do.
That's the most important thing.
But you don't get the normal city's abilities again. Standard stuff, right? But you can take all your other units here, right? Like you can still have everything else that cities can have in this army. It's not locked to just like the Dark Elf stuff. It's just the special abilities are for the Order, Serpentis, Scourge Privateers, and Shadowblades. Now let me ask you a question. How did the person who wrote this section of the book and was like, whoa, we got to limit this ambush ability on these Scourge Privateers, okay? These Corsairs coming in blocks of 30, anywhere from 9 inches, is crazy. It's crazy. We got to limit it down to 10. How did that get past muster? Okay. And yet the previous one, they were like 60 libs, 3 inches off the line. Pff, I don't see a problem. Do you? Nope. We're good. Like the fact that these things are on like opposing pages, like you flip from one to the next. I'm like, what happened here? Okay.
And they're not even like, and you don't get bonus spells either. There are no spells.
No, there's no spell list. That's what I said. Yeah. There's no spell list, which is sad. So
despite there being a command trait that allows you to have an extra spell cast.
Yes. Yeah. I guess you could go off board with a Dreadlord on Black Dragon, and he could ambush in from 9 inches away.
Well,
that's a thing you can do.
I like a Dreadlord coming on with like 10 knights.
Sure.
That's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it more interesting than doing the exact same thing in Living City?
No.
Where I can then like shoot and move closer with the Black Dragon? Not really.
Sure.
I think I'd rather just do that. But this can be anywhere rather than the board edge. Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever play this ever.
Yeah, sure.
But the command ability for Shadow Strike then allows you to move an extra D6.
Right.
So if you brought in the Black Dragon with the Knights, you've now advanced your Knights potentially just within 3. So, like there's some good use still there.
Yeah, it's not like honestly Haven.
Yep.
Misty Town. Let's just go with that. Misty Town is underwhelming. I would love to see this honestly boosted a little bit. Like, I don't mind the 10 units or less thing. I really don't. I think more stuff should be like that. I think that's my problem is not that. I think that's fine. I like the idea of little flanking Harrier units that can come in and do stuff like that. Like you mentioned, 10 Knights or the Dreadlord on Black Dragon or whatever, right? My issue with it is it didn't do enough to buff the stuff that clearly needed buffed, right? These are meant to be like, if you read the story, these pirates are like, they're for real, right? These are serious customers here. And I would have loved to see them have actually some kind of like offensive buff, something like that, right? Where even if it was through the command traits or through like the narcotics that you could use on units, maybe, right? If they instead of sort of buffing the hero, maybe you could like pass them out to the unit and get the unit all hopped up on goofballs or something, like whatever, there could have been play here. They could have had here's my problem. Do they not have a spell list because they ran out of room on the page?
Yes.
Is this a layout issue?
Yes. That is exactly what happened.
Okay. And just buffing the knights or giving around some good one or two small buffs, right? Like a way to give the knights an extra attack. Something like that. Right? That's all it would have taken to actually make some really interesting play here.
Yep.
I mean, there's a couple ways they could have went. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, I feel like the cities are kind of the biggest miss in here.
Well, I mean, at least you can get a
Oh,
6-up shrug on your general.
Sure. You do have a cool artifact. Let's talk about it real quick. The Strangler Kelp Noose. This is a funny artifact. I will admit this is like it's pretty funny, and it's pretty funny what it can do. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy model within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a die. If the roll is 6 or is less than the target's wound characteristic, the target cannot attack in that combat phase. So any hero of more than 6
all
wounds.
monsters.
Yes, exactly. Any hero of more than 6 wounds, you can just like automatically shut them off, which is pretty cool, right? Like Archeon or
You told me that you have a Vlazda, huh?
yeah, sure,
Cool.
or Morathi or whatever. Right now, it won't shut off things that fight at the start of the combat phase that have old style activation wars nonsense and fight before you when it's their turn.
Like like they would have had to charge.
Yeah, sure. But nonetheless, still a cool item. I do like that. That's neat. And as I hate to keep quoting Rob, but I will here. Why are nets in this game so good? Why is it? As we're about to cover when we get to IDK. Tom, do you remember back in like D&D some edition where nets were like super broken and like one of the best things you could wield? Like you could just shut people down with nets.
It was 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nets were like this sideways broken dumb weapon, and like a net is actually a really inefficient weapon. It was, nets are really just used in like gladiatorial combat and stuff like that. They're not actually a wartime weapon. And yet they became like the best weapon in D&D. That's what I feel like we're doing here, because every net is like the best net. Whether we're talking netters on goblins, this net, this Strangle Kelp net, or the net we're about to talk about in a minute when we get to IDK, which is like the best net of nets. Too many nets. And I have a real problem with it. Okay. Anyway. Anything else that we have to cover with cities?
I don't think Misthaven is as bad as it might sound. I actually think there's some good stuff in there. I think the missing spell lore, and then you combine that with Darkling Covens and your sorcerers, stabby, some dread spears. I think all it took was a spell lore, and this is a really cool city. But I still think the Shadow Strike and that teleporting shenanigans will find its place in the tournament list. So I think there's some good stuff in there. But again, it's not going to be 5-0 if that was what you're expecting. But I don't think it's bad. I actually don't think it's bad. I think Hakuron, that for me is a bit. That for me is certainly something that if I was a Dark Elf player and I want to bring the band back, I'd be super happy. But
right.
I probably wouldn't go out and rush and buy Dark Elf models.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. So next up, IDK. IDK. All right. So, let's. A lot of big changes here. I'll roll through them quick, and then we'll just talk about it all. A lot of War Scroll changes. Alapex, your Sharky Shark, improved attack profile, and the most gross net launcher in the game. More nets, sick nets, bro. What the net launcher does is if the net launcher hits, not wounds, not causes damage, hits, that unit cannot pile in. That's right, 60 goblins. You're all in the net now. Take that. That's right.
All 60.
All 60. I don't know how this works. Very efficient netting. Very, very good,
Big
strong
net.
ropes under the sea. Both Eidolons were buffed. 5-up, feel no pain on both now. The Eidolon of the Storm, the Drench with Hate bonus was expanded to Wholly Within 18 inches from Wholly Within 9. Way better. And the Pulled into the Depths changes to +1 to hit for the Eidolon rather than -1 to hit for the enemy. Which is, pretty powerful against an enemy hero. Makes actually quite a good hero fighter. The Eidolon of the Sea, again, 5-up, feel no pain. The Bravery buff was expanded to 18 inches Wholly Within. And they can reroll all casts, unbinds, or dispels as opposed to just one. So good. They also got a lot cheaper, by the by. Both of them dropped on points, even though they got better, which shows you just how far off these things were originally. The Leviathan got much more offensive. I'm not going to go into each of his profile changes. He has a lot of them. They changed. He does a lot more damage now. The Void Drum is now +1 to save for all IDK within 12, and +1 to hit for all Namarti within 12. So it's not cover anymore. It's just +1 to save. It's real good. And the Leviathan is 340 points. So he went back up just a little, but he's like way better. Again, not to get into the narrative, but there is a moment in the story where like 12 Leviathans literally attack a fleet of ships, and it's amazing. So anyways, like a dozen Leviathan turtles.
Did its base armor save go up from, was it normally a 3, is it now a 2? Or was it always a 2?
No, so yeah, that's also good. Thank you. I didn't include that, but yes, you're absolutely right. So its armor save also, it moved to a star, right? So it's like a Bastiladon now. Thank you, I didn't mention that. But it starts at a 2-up for its first 8 wounds, and its monster profile also changed to be the best monster profile in the game. It's even better than the Megas, because it does not lose efficacy until half of its wounds are eroded. Most monsters are at a quarter or a fifth where they start to degrade. It has to lose more than 50% of its wounds, and its initial 8 wounds are on a 2-up save. I wish Megas had been 18 wounds before they started to degrade when I saw this. I thought we got to a third and we were blessed and lucky, and then they were like, nah, dog. Sea people are better. Fish people are better. We got this. So yes, thank you. It also starts as a 2-up and then degrades as you crack the shell. So, yeah, and then there's a battalion, which is like, whatever, it's fine. It can make your king immortal if you, for some reason, wanted to take it. It's okay. Like, you can pass wounds off to your sharks. And there are new mount traits for seahorses and turtles, Volturnus included, and they are really good. That's my note here to myself. They are really good.
So good. So good.
The mount traits make me angry. Can I talk for a moment? Look, I've just got to digress for a minute. I've had this in me for like a week and a half, and I can't. I've got to let it out. Here we go. Why does this stupid undersea unicorn and his turtle friend just get bonus mount trait rules that are good, like good abilities, when my Mega Gargants don't get like a legendary name or a special ability or a quote-unquote mount trait for them? They're all named characters. Every Mega Gargant's a named thing. In the narrative, they're all named things. We could have just had our own monster mount trait type thing, like almost every monster in the game gets. Stupid War Hydras and Charybdises get these things and Black Dragons get it in Anvilgard, and we don't get them in our book. I hate it. It should have been in there, and I will never forgive you for not including it. Okay, back to this. At any rate, sorry, it really triggered me, man. It triggered me. Okay. Anthony, what do you think of all the IDK changes?
So I am so effing excited. Not because I'm an IDK player, but I'm so sick of playing Eels. I'm just sick of playing Eels. I remember when IDK very first come out, I was excited at the idea of Namarti and Reavers and Turtles and Eidolons, and I got to play some of those early on, but I haven't really seen much of it. It's always been like cookie cutter one list. So I think we will still see Eels. I don't think people are going to just drop their Eel stock, but I'm seeing a lot of lists now with a Leviathan. Having the ancient mount trait, ignoring it in Rend 1 and having a 2-up armor save for half of its wounds is crazy cool. I think you'll start to see a bit more list diversity. So overall, I'm excited. I hope to see some more things like even like the Eidolons, man. It's been such a long time since I've seen an Eidolon on the table, and it's such a beautiful sculpt.
Yeah, I agree. Tom, what are your thoughts on the IDK?
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot rests on the winter FAQ. because right now what most of this did is still buff eels. Like you probably wouldn't go full eel spam. You'd mix in like a shark or two to net launch people and stop them from piling in, or you're gonna have Volti with his Void Chill Darkness, so he can subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy models that are within 3 inches of this model. Just period. He's doing that, right? Like he's just got this bubble of neg 1 to hit around him for enemy models, which is really good. And there's a lot of situations in this army where you could be under like neg 1, neg 2, neg 3 to hit, depending on how they built the army, right? And yes, some of that's going to cut into your eel count, but with the extra control you're getting out of like stopping all pile-ins, or just plowing into somebody with a very invulnerable Leviathan, or maybe having an Eidolon actually being a good caster now, like there's lots of play is my point. So I think you'll still see a good chunk of eels being the backbone of the army, but a little bit of it, that end stuff, will start flipping into these other things. Now, if in the winter FAQ the eels go up points, right, then I think you're going to see much different armies built. I think you're going to see people start, especially if the offensive eels go up and the defensive ones don't, you'll start seeing some like 2+ unrendable eel builds where you have shielded eels to start the game. You'll start to see like a lot more Eidolon play where they're looking to sort of dominate in that way. You'll start to see more Namarti builds built around the Leviathan, where he's making them, like he's buffing them in a radius around them and keeping them more alive because of the save bonuses and stuff like that. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens. Yeah, IDK changes were good. I mean, I'm scared because I think the IDK changes make them an already army that was regularly in the top 5, top 10, got patently better. Right?
It kind of comes back to my point around Morathi, is that Morathi was relying on, 1 or 2 one tricks. I feel like we all know what Eel's done. We all know they're going to come on the side of the board. They're either going to reverse the tide or they're going to come on turn 3. I think there's going to be a little bit more diversity, which will be fun. And also shout out to the Sharks. They've been trying to make Sharks good for a while. I've got a local player who's very, very good, and we've been running Sharks for years now, Ben Spinetti. And Ben's been running Sharks really well, and I think finally they're getting some time in the sun.
Yep. Yeah,
I think
agree.
the Blood Surf, though, I'm not sold on it because you're locked to one of their, I can't remember what their chambers are called, but you've got to run it as Ock Ranch or whatever.
Oh yeah. It has to be in an Iron Rack. It has to be in an Iron Rack enclave. Yeah. Yep, agreed. I didn't mention that for Blood Surf Hunt, but yes, it does have to be Iron Rack. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I am scared and excited for IDK. That is my answer. All right. Next up, Slaves to Darkness. All right.
I forgot they were in this book.
Well, if it makes you feel better, GW might have as well. No, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Wait.
Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I was just going to continue the jokes and saying that when you said that you thought Cities was the weakest of this book, I was going to disagree. I think for me, Slaves was underwhelming. But let's unpack the rules and maybe you will convince me otherwise.
I'll say that there's one egregious misstep on Slaves, but we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't hate this. I don't know that it's good, but I think it's still better than what the other one was. Okay? Alright. So, Idolaters. So this is your new sub-faction. You take it in place of Ravagers or Kabbalists or whatever. And in this one, you get an Idolater Lord, which takes one of your chariots and upgrades it to a hero. He becomes the Idolater Lord, Priest, and Hero keywords. He also counts as an Exalted Charioteer, even though he's only a unit of 1. And he knows the prayer that corresponds to his mark, right? And the prayers that you get are very similar to the War Shrine buffs. Not exactly the same, but similar enough that I don't have to go into every one of them, right? They do basically the same kind of stuff. Your priests in this army Okay. All priests gain +1 to all prayer rolls, and all priests have the leader battlefield roll. Okay. You also get +1 to wound enemy priests, and you can destroy enemy faction terrain. Fine, not all terrain, just like enemy faction terrain. But I don't know how much that would ever come up. But okay, fine enough, I guess. It's a neat little bonus thing. Feels just like an extra thing thrown in, so that's fine.
Take that, Sylvaneth.
Sure.
I was going to say,
you're gonna
poor old
burn. You're gonna
Sylvaneth.
break up some woods. Yeah.
It's so crazy good right now.
Yeah, exactly. Hitting them where it hurts. It's about time you came down a peg, Sylvaneth. Cultists. This is obviously the interesting part of the army to me. All of the Warcry cultists are now battle line. And in addition, they gain the Marauder charge rule, where when they charge, you set the lowest die to a 6. Whoa. Which means that it's quite reasonable that untamed beasts can move 28 inches or something, right? Because they'll like start the game on the line, move 6 inches pre-game, move 6, run 6. They have built-in run and charge, and then they charge. So it's like, right?
When I read this, I could just see a marketing person being like, "So we gotta sell Warcry warbands."
Right. Well, this is the thing people always wanted, right? Because people wanted their Warcry cultists to be battle line. Now, you still can't give the Warcry cultists marks, which I think might be the thing you were going to talk about. I don't know.
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. So they are still what they are. And they are not as good as Marauders, mainly because they're not all on 25 mil bases with ridiculous, stupid bonuses to like attack and rend for no apparent reason. Their axes don't get sharper when you have more than 15 of them. But at the same time, I think that there is interesting play here, and I think it's cool. If people really like the Warcry warbands, I think this is valid, right? So I mean, I think this is a cool army that they opened up, and here's why I like this, and I feel this is more successful than the cities. If I wanted to make a cool Dark Elf themed force before, I could do that, right? Like, I could have taken Anvil Guard and kind of leaned into the Dark Elf aesthetic, and I had stuff that, like, boosted my Black Dragons and whatever, right? Like, I could have felt like I was building a cool Dark Elf force. Yeah? And neither of the new cities actually made me feel like I'm building more of an efficient or better Dark Elf force than what I was doing before. In fact, it's possibly worse, right? Like, it did make me feel like, oh, I'm more in theme in any big way. In my opinion. Your mileage may vary. Okay.
I still think the Darkling Coven build of Misthaven still is good. It keeps you in that Dark Elf build, but I can appreciate what you're saying.
Sure. Whereas to me, this was just an unbuildable thing before. Right? Like, I couldn't do the Warcry army that I wanted to run because let's just be honest that the Marauders are stupid figs and the Warcry warbands all look amazing. Right?
Yes.
And like people wanted to run this. And the fact that they turned them battle line and gave them the cool Marauder charge rule says, okay, they've got some play. Do they have as much play as Marauders? No. But they've got some play. Right? And the whole like upgraded Chariot Lord thing is it's a cool tech piece. I like Chariot Heroes. I think it's a neat idea. I'm glad we got that brought in. I hope we do the same thing with other things like that. Like I hope we get like a Demigryph hero at some point and a Gorgrunta hero at some point, whatever, in the same way. So I think that's all good. Yeah, it's and as far as stuff that they can do, I think they're mostly still acting like a Slaves to Darkness army and relying on a lot of the same Slaves stuff. Is it as good as your Demon Prince Despoilers? No.
They fundamentally failed.
Okay, tell me why, Tom.
Fundamentally failed in design.
Okay. I'm ready. Walk us through it. We don't need the build-up.
You have traded your Idolater Prayers, which is the like your general's prayer, for all magical items.
Yes, that is true. There is not a magic item list in this.
And there are no generic magical item lists for all of Slaves of Darkness.
Correct.
All Slaves of Darkness only have items in the actual subfaction, which means if you take this, your heroes don't get items other than whatever realm you're from. You get one item.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
that is a fundamental failure. That is a failure on the level of like the sacrifices that were being made for like the allegiance, like Grand Alliance order, where you had to like delve into like the realms to get functional artifacts. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't even have real artifacts.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Tom.
Yep.
Is Celeste's battalion a fundamental failure? Because it doesn't have magic items. It's Celeste's subfaction, I should say. It has no magic items.
So none of your heroes could ever have any items,
and other than the one realm artifact. Yeah. And you can take multiple battalions in that build pretty easy.
I would say that it leaves me with, like, let me say it this way. I feel that I am leaving things on the table.
Sure.
Like things that the base rules grant me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a hidden cost to doing this thing.
Sure.
There's a built-in penalty that they're not even being honest about.
Yeah.
Like, to me, what ends up happening is you build this out, and then after you've gotten excited about it, after you've built it out, you realize, oh, I don't get to actually play with this base mechanic that everybody else gets to play with.
Yeah.
I lose that thing.
Sure.
Like, it would be different if they said, in the actual allegiance abilities, because idolaters are iconoclastic, they can't take items.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would have went, okay. Like, so they're balancing out other abilities with the absence of items. What I read here is they just ran out of page space, and so they just couldn't fit items.
Right.
And so it feels like I've traded this bad prayer of the Lord with an actual item chart.
Yeah.
Which,
fair.
Let's be honest, you could realistically have 2 items with a battalion in Slaves.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, I mean, you could actually take the Gresh's Iron Reapers battalion in this, right? And you know, like, that's fine. Like, there's a battalion literally built for this. Right.
And so the cost of that is you also don't get an item with that, a bonus item.
Sure.
And so, like, it just feels like a failure. Because, like, it feels like that battalion should be 50 to 70 points cheaper then, because you don't actually get part of the benefit of battalions.
Right.
So that's like, so I was excited about this until I realized I didn't get items, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot less interesting.
Sure. Nope, totally fair. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually agree with both of you. I think Tom's 100% right that you don't get that extra artifact. So whether the points were reduced prior to publishing, or it could be reduced, or an additional benefit some way to compensate for the lost artifact, I actually agree wholeheartedly. At the same time, like if I'm a Slave to the Darkness player and I want to run an army full of chariots and knights and maybe Marauder horsemen, if I want to be tapping into, you know, the Iron Golems, the Untamed Beasts, you know, your Warcry warbands, is it Scions of the Flame? They're pretty cool. I think this will allow me to do some different things, and I think comparing them to Marauders is not fair. I think Marauders in general need to be altered, so that shouldn't be our benchmark. But I think overall, again, a nice, interesting build. I think people who are very passionate about this type of style or may justify. We saw some chariots being built in cities, and people really enjoy running Scourge Runner chariots. I want to see what Slaves do with this. But yeah, for me, I wasn't initially amazed, but I'm sure there's some secret sauce somewhere, and who knows, again, what's coming next in Broken Realms. So I think that's always a grain of salt I've got to think about, is we don't know what's coming with that updated points adjustment. We don't know what's coming, you know, what else is going to be able to synergize or be brought into this mix.
Sure. It is cool that all your war shrines get the leader role. So, that's cool. Okay. Like, that's not bad.
Right. And your chariot can be a hero, but actually can't carry an item.
Your chariot can be a hero, but can't carry an item. Well, you can carry a generic realm item, but you mean like other than that? Yeah, sure.
But those are all bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're all questionable. Let's put it that way. Like your two choices the two actual decent ones aren't super useful here. Like the only halfway decent realm artifacts are the Rage Blade, which is good if you have a high number of attacks, right? Which this guy doesn't. He'll have like 4 with his main weapon, so it's not like 6s to double tap or doing that much. Or the Plate of Perfect Perfection from Shimon. I mean, ignoring Rend 1 is not terrible, right? Like it's okay thing. It's certainly better than no magic item. I mean, I'll give it that. And it's a decently defensive item.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything more? I don't disagree with you, Tom. Anything more we want to say on slaves? All right. Uh-oh, that's right. What's up, folks?
Nothing for me.
You thought there was only 5 factions in the book? Well, you're right. There are. Boom! Slaanesh! Bonus nerf! That's right, folks. You thought that I was not going to talk about this? You were wrong. Okay? Slaanesh with the 5th nerf of the season. That's right. We cannot help but win for losing. Now I'm excited to see what's coming. I hope we get Mortal Slaanesh announced, and that could turn all of Slaanesh's problems around. But with Shadow and Pain, we got a fun kick in the teeth, and I want to talk about it. So, obviously, since Shadow and Pain released at the same time, in tandem, there were also War Scroll changes to, and points changes to Slaanesh stuff. Namely, Hellstriders Hellstriders, the mortal dudes on the Licky Tongue Anteater demons, have a slightly upgraded melee profile. Slightly. They went from killing nothing ever under any circumstance to doing a couple wounds. Okay. And for that amazing benefit, they lost the battlefield roll. Or the battle line. Sorry, the battlefield roll. Good lord. What did I type there? Sorry.
We all knew what you were saying.
We all knew what I was saying. There we go. Fixed.
Our battle line.
They lost the battle line roll. Are you serious over here? This was the stock staple battle line that
in your army,
in your Slaanesh army,
you never took Daemonettes.
No, because Daemonettes are terrible. They're the worst demons. They're the worst. They're worthless. Okay, like straight worthless. And they don't do anything. They add nothing to the army. They benefit from nothing, and achieve nothing. They're the opposite of what you want in the army. And Hellstriders at least had the decency of being like fast chaff. Right?
Right.
Which is all you needed. You needed fast chaff to get in the way to keep your heroes alive, because that's what you're looking for in Slaanesh. Now I'm excited that by doing this, you've said the only valid build of Slaanesh is Lurid Haze Invaders, what I was running back in February, but with just all the Marauders. That's right. Bring in all the Marauders, baby, because that's your only other battlefield generic choice left, or battle line. Why do I keep saying that? Only battle line generic choice left. So just get them all in. Get them all in. That's right, folks. It's Marauder time. It's Marauder o'clock over in Slaaneshville. They're bent sideways, and they're the only option you got. It's that or Daemonettes that do nothing. So make a choice. Real shame. Real shame.
It reminds me of that internet meme like 10 years ago where that guy was in bed telling leave Brittany alone, like leave Slaanesh alone, like hasn't it suffered enough?
Yeah,
no,
it's already dead.
They love that.
I never would have.
They love it.
I never would have thought 12 months ago that I would be feeling sympathetic to Slaanesh now. Like I would have been 12 months ago, like you deserve it, suck shit. But no, now I actually genuinely feel sorry. You are on Sylvaneth level sympathy.
No,
Legions of Nagash sympathy.
Take it and like it.
Sure.
You know you like the pain. Just suck it up and deal with it.
Yep. So at any rate, we all have high hopes for this weekend and whatever they announce, because this could be very much fixed with cool new Mortal Slaanesh units, right? Like if I get cool new
Right.
Mortal Slaanesh options, I'll be like, who cares? Because I do not like Hellstriders anyways. I think they're stupid looking figs. I'd love to jettison them and get some cooler options. So all will be forgiven if you build me out a new Mortal Slaanesh. So 3 days and counting. Okay. All right, gentlemen. Let's talk lore here for just a few minutes. We've been going for a while. We're going to do a nice, quick lore overview. I would direct everybody to Doug and 2+ Tough to do the full lore, but we wanted to wait till deep in the show so we can talk about that. Let's move us back over here, and let's minimize that down. There we go. And we'll bring up our lore here. What did you think of this lore? What are the high points of the story for you? Like, I don't want to, like, we don't have to beat by beat it. I mean, I guess I'll do a quick summary. Here's the very quick high level summary of the lore. Spoilers. You've been warned. Okay. Long story short, Morathi is going after godhood. To do that, she collects several different items, one of which is the magic soul lantern from the IDK. The other thing she needs is Varanite, the realm stone of the 8 Peaks. And on the way, she tricks like Sigmar and Stormcast into helping her, even though Sigmar never fully trusts her. She tricks what's his name? Catacross. She tricks Krakatoa into helping her, into distracting the Slaves of Darkness. There's a really cool beat in there where the Tzeentch has developed a spell that can actually, if Stormcast die in the range of this spell, their souls get sucked into war shrines and don't go back to Azyr, which is terrifying, obviously. So some cool stuff there. Morathi ends up getting the little lantern, getting enough Varanite, diving in and destroying her mortal body completely, disassembling herself, and diving back into the gullet of Slaanesh, where she swims around inside his infinite weirdness of chaos inside him, and she used the soul lantern to attract all of the ancient elven souls, the most potent and powerful from the world that was and back farther, all their old gods and all their old heroes. She attracts them and then eats them all. Okay, so she consumes and destroys the souls of all of the ancient great heroes. So none of them are coming back. You can all, like, Eltharion is the only one who got out. The rest of them, you're dead. You ain't coming back.
No, Anarion's still in there.
Well, I'll get to him, in a second. Because, assumingly, that's a very logical assumption that that's who that is.
It could be Kaeldor as well, potentially.
She gets to a final soul and pauses because she has actually some love for this soul, is how they describe it or whatever, right? There's like Morathi, despite her tens of thousands of years of existence, right? Still has some love for this particular soul. The easy guess is Anarion, her former husband or whatever, right?
Who was the greatest of the kings, which is what the text says.
Yep, exactly.
Like, yeah.
He's so, the easy read.
It is Anarion. Like, it is Anarion.
He also then turns into a giant fire sword, which famously Anarion also drew the Sword of Khaine, right? And he turns into a giant fire sword, like his spirit turns into a giant fire sword, and he splits her in half. And then the ritual completes and she gets out. She's achieved godhood, but she is forever sundered. Hence why she has two forms of baby Morathi and big Morathi. Because her ex-husband turned into... Hey, why do you have two bodies? Well, I was fishing around as a soul form in a god that I had enchained, and I met my ex-husband, and he turned into a fire sword and split me in two, and then my god ritual completed. You know, life's crazy, right? I mean, it's a wacky world we all live in, huh? So anyways.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, so she attains godhood and then goes and attacks Anvilgard. She shows up under a flag of peace, and then through her allies in the Black Coil Network and the other nefarious Dark Elves who run Anvilgard, she takes it over. She carefully does not kill any of the Stormcast in the city, so they can't lightning back up to Sigmar to warn him.
Like Von Brecht.
Right, she takes him captive. She takes over the city. It's now Harcuron. She renames it. So Morathi stabs Sigmar in the back, kills a lot of innocent people. And Van Brecht is alive at the end, but imprisoned. He's getting all, like, talked to down by some stupid fleet master, Black Ark fleet master, who Von Brecht would certainly paste out through a wall if he ever got his hands on him. Because, give me a break with your little Corsair self. And then all of a sudden, some being, that's clearly a teaser for the next one, comes in that's, like, got crimson eyes that glow in the dark and big leathery wings and is a vampirate. Just saying. Shows up and kills everybody, every dark elf in that place, rips through them like a hot knife through butter, and frees Van Brecht, and then, like, just leaves, never says anything to him, just clearly murders everybody, rips open every gate, and allows Van Brecht to escape. And he then leaves the book, like, saying, I need to figure out where I can get a boat and get out of here and get back to warn people. I, by the way, think he is going to be, like you asked earlier about him as a character, I think he's going to be sort of our human POV Sigmar side character throughout the whole story. Where he'll kind of keep, he'll keep going throughout the stories and be kind of our character that we get established, we stick to. And then also this thing over there, that sexy, sexy image that's over there on the side of my screen, that is the Protean form being born. A form of depravity and exaltation. Witness its glory, weep at its majesty, as Slaanesh, baby Slaanesh, is reborn. So they did say in the art, like, in the book, they're not very clear about what the Protean form is. They just have all of the Slaanesh things are coming and worshiping at it at the birth of this Protean thing. And in the article, they were like, Slaanesh is reborn. It's a little baby now. And they, like, literally just said that in the lore article that they were like, catch up on what happened. Here's spoilers. This is Slaanesh reborn. Oh, okay. You didn't say that in the book, but all right. I guess that's what it is. Okay.
Baby Slaanesh. So this happened a little bit earlier than I anticipated.
Sure. So that's your high level beats. Anthony, what I like? There's a lot of other stuff I didn't cover there. That was super summarized. What'd you think of all this?
I think it's awesome. I think it's the first step, and I mentioned right at the start of the episode that it's not my armies. It's mostly not the stories that I really care about, but it's interesting to think about how the different realms are about to respond. I always said that I would have loved to have stayed in malign portents for longer than we did, and there's so many questions that need to be answered for me. So very cool if you hear my dog licking his water now. Stop that. But yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I love the advancement of Morathi. The book is, I think from this particular book, it's about at least 70 to 80. I think it's at least 70 pages of just story, just straight out story. So and the Morathi journey is broken up into 3 acts. So I'm really conscious not to spoil it for anyone. I think what you said was really good. Learn more from the book, go listen to Tough Doug. But I have more questions than answers right now. I want to know what's happening. As a Hallowheart Tempest Eye player, Ambleguard's just up the road for me. How are we going to respond? What are we going to do? Have we just shit our pants, or what are we going to do? Because Morathi is around the corner. But then
there's 2 other big cities, both on that peninsula within range of
Tempest Eye, Hammerhall, and Hallowheart. Let alone Khorne, who's roaming around the Flamescar Peninsula. There's so many other cool things that can be tapped into, but yeah, I'm down. I'm excited. I want to see what the next book is about, and hopefully we get a reveal this week.
Yeah, and I do think Slaanesh is still trapped, right? Like, Slaanesh is still trapped, but has slowly been, like, breaking chains and then replacing the chains with illusions so that the elves don't notice. And I think, so, like, Slaanesh, these are both Slaanesh. One is, like, baby Slaanesh, and one is Papa Slaanesh or whatever. I don't know if that's an allusion to the same thing that happened with Morathi in a certain way or not. I don't know where the story's going. I have no idea, but I am in. I mean, like, the beats in this, the fall of the city, the story with them assaulting the 8 Points and getting the Varanite was freaking crazy awesome. The thing that happened with probably Anarion and the Fire Sword, like, it's nuts. Like, there are just crazy good beats in this story that are just like, it's an exciting read.
Even even just learning about how the blood shrines work in conjunction with the big cauldrons in Hagnar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those little there's so many little gems that are dropped through the book. You get a real appreciation, or again, you ask more questions because you've now learnt something and you want to know more about the story. So yeah, for me, it's been awesome to get in a story advancement.
Yeah, it it absolutely leaves more questions than answers. There's a lot of neat turns in there, like the IDK show up in this obviously in a big way to go get their lantern back. That's a really cool confrontation and sort of it resolves in a way you wouldn't necessarily expect when like the king shows up and talks to Morathi and like as she's born into godhood and what ends up happening. I think it's actually called like Morathi's Mercy or something like that is the name of the chapter or the name of the section, something like that. Yeah, Tom, what about you, buddy?
Can we just talk about the fact that, like, she achieved godhood?
Yeah, she did it. She got
She
it.
got that.
Yeah.
Like, that was her motivation when the first book dropped.
Tens of thousands of years in the making. She got there.
She got there.
Mm-hmm.
I had to laugh when this was exactly the beats of Nagash in End Times.
Sure.
Like,
go around, steal certain artifacts, then conduct a big ritual. Yeah, yeah.
And then go destroy something that you're angry about.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Like, for him, he's like, Khemri, you're mine.
Right.
Here, she's like, you know what? I'm going to take Ambleguard. Let's start there.
Yeah.
But then, like, how does the rest of the Pantheon?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, like, I think for me, it's like, well, now that she's achieved godhood, how does the Pantheon respond? Like, what is Gorka Morka going to do? What's going to happen with Sigmar? What is Nagash thinking about this? Like, just, and then obviously the trickle down effect to the, you know, are there going to be champions that rise up? Much like the heralds of old, like, are we going to see new champions, new people who are going to rise up, and how they're going to interact with this story and other stories, and then how does it come to a head? So I think we've got a cool 7 to 8 months of books. I was always worried about how these books would start to drop, but if this is going to set the pace, I think we're up for a really exciting, I guess, 6 months.
Yeah, she's an interesting god too, as she's one of the few in the Pantheon not directly tied to a realm. Right? Like Malarian has control of Ulgu. Her son technically owns Ulgu, right? And Sigmar is tied to Azyr, and Teclis and Tyrion are tied to Haish, right? Elariel is tied to the realm of life, and so on and so forth, right? Because they became gods through the wind of magic that occupied them in the end time that they ended up reincorporating through, right? Nagash obviously has Shaish. And whereas she has no plane that she's attached to. Hence why she could just be like, you know what? I'm going to Akshi and I'm going to steamroll Anvilgard, and that's my city now. I'm not tied to my son's realm, right? I'm just going to go leave this and go put my boot up somebody else.
And there's no gods associated with Akshi, for example.
Yeah, so, sure.
Like, so technically Grimnir, right? Like, kind of. But he's in pieces.
He is in pieces, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think about the same thing with the Realm of Metal. Like, there's no god there, although kind of Grungy.
Sure. Yeah, the dwarves get kind of partial credit.
They're there by name, really.
So
yeah, it's just really interesting. Just really interesting developments that I just didn't think they would do.
Right. I mean, they hit so many things in this first book. If this is the kind of pace and like story beats we're moving at through the rest of this story, that's why I said, like, we are going to truly, this is going to live up to its name of Broken Realms. Right.
Well,
like,
and
I don't even know what the world looks like on the other side of this.
Like, I'm not just flippantly relating it to End Times. Like, it feels like of the same weight and significance of the narrative developments that happened in End Times.
Right. Not that they're going to end by literally blowing up the mortal realms or something.
Right.
No,
I'm
that
not
won't
suggesting that at all, but just simply that like the narrative development of major players and the rise and fall of nations,
Mm-hmm.
and the reforming of the narrative landscape, like all of that is happening here in spades.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And speaking of narrative landscapes, there are also some cool and interesting realm rules as well that you can bring into play. So I'm going to explore that locally, but there's some very interesting realm rules you can tap into from this book.
Yeah, I played with so the past 2 weeks I've played with 2 of those new realm rules in my normal games, my normal weekly game, and they were fun. It's really cool. Like it's neat rules that let you feel like you're kind of playing in that there's like a Varanthrax one for the 8 points. There's a subsection of Akshi and a subsection of Ulgu, I think, is the 3 of them. I think that's right. And they're cool. They're really neat rules with some interesting counterplay. Like one of them, you can like gather your commander can like gather mists around the units to like give negatives to hit in shooting.
And then people can dump their own command points to negate those.
Yeah, to like witch light the mists and stuff. It's actually a really cool counterplay. It was a really fun realm to play in. I thought that one was really neat. There's certainly like there was some discussion of should they be in match play, and my only argument would be no, just because they're kind of hard to like. People might not have access to them would be my only reason not. But like power wise, there's no reason you shouldn't use them in your match play games. And if somebody said they were using them at a tournament and had them like on a sheet where I could see the rules, I would be perfectly fine with it because there's nothing broken in them. They're actually like less impactful rules wise than the normal realms. Like play in Shamon sometime and talk to me about how impactful realms are, right? When the whole board is suddenly entangling. Yeah. But like yeah, so they're fine. They're fun. I really liked those realms. I thought they were good. I thought they're cool. I was glad we got an 8 points realm to play in because I've wanted that for a while. I thought that's a neat battlefield that I was sad there was no realm rules for, but now there are. So there you go. All right. Oh, and all the realm artifacts with them that you could theoretically maybe use are all junk. So there you go. So that's fine too. Sometime I gotta get a flying artifact that I'm allowed to use. That's all I want. That's all I want. Yeah. Anything else we want to say before we leave this behind? This mega review.
I'm excited about the future of Warhammer. I saw somebody make a comment in the comments, and I fully agree with it. Like, if there's this much narrative development in the first volume, who knows where we'll be at the end of it?
Agreed. Yep, I agree. Anthony, final thoughts?
Yeah, there's no affiliate links here. We're not trying to sell you anything. Right. But like just reading this book again, it's just been really interesting. We learnt a lot. I think again, we talked about it's a good balance between narrative and rules. So I think there's something for everyone. And I would again highly recommend at minimum you go and watch someone like 2 Plus Tough Doug and go get across this story. If it sounds like a thing for you, go grab the book. But at minimum, I would suggest everyone goes and watches those videos just to get across what this means. And then when Broken Realms touches your army, you're across how the story is kind of coming together and what each little arc has kind of meant for your faction, your realm, your leader, your god.
Yep.
Do you think we'll get a starter box like we did for all the battalions in Morathi? Do you think we'll get one of those for every single book?
I think there'll be some kind of release tied to every book, but I don't know that they'll always be that. But I think they'll vary.
I think they will. That's why I was confident. That's why I was confident we wouldn't get any battle force boxes. Right. I thought, no, they're just going to put out these 3 to 5 boxes every book, and that's our models. Yep. But yeah, so I think there will be.
I hope so. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I know this was a mega review. This was a long one, but there was so much to unpack here. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Coach, for sticking with us this whole time. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, brother. For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button over there. We really appreciate it. It's as easy as sliding your mouse from here down to here and clicking a little thumbs up. It helps other people find this video. If you haven't already subscribed, or if you're new, please do give a subscribe. We're here every week doing this. But as always, I thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday.